right. Wide open Torrence! Oh, baby! Touchdown! How do you leave the best receiver in the NAIA that wide open?
You show, and that's what we do! Cat!
You're proud of me?
And it's caught! Oh my goodness! Troy Torrence comes down with it!
Welcome all to Bankroll Blitz here on Pub Sports Radio for Tuesday, September 19th. Thank you all for joining us. This is somewhat of a new experience here. Troy and I are in our first season working together. We had an excellent week one, and then we got kicked in the teeth in week two. A very early slap in the face. And it wasn't just a small beating we took. It was a major fiasco. And the plan that I had of backing these teams that looked bad in week one, really blew up in my face with the Bengals and the Giants. And we need redemption immediately. A sport can get away from you too if you let it, and it can weigh on you too if you string together a couple bad weeks. So I don't know this is must win time in week 3 of the season. Troy, how are you, my friend?
Man, I'm just like you, very upset with how the week went, but it's just something that you just got to let go. I mean, it was that type of week where it's just going to test you as a handicapper, and it's going to leave a lot of doubt in your head. And it's just something, if you've been doing it for long enough, that you just put in the work, you grind through it, and you'll come out on the other end. And for me personally, 2 overtime games that didn't fall my way. The Browns game, which, the list is just endless with that game. And the Eagles couldn't cover. They were up 20 in the second half. Just little things kind of just fell apart. So I'm ready to get after it, though, man. I really am. I can't wait to break this down with you.
I'm really excited to break it down as well. The fun thing about sports capping is you wake up and there's a new slate of games for you to work on and attack and scorecast and game script. And that's exactly what we're doing right here. RVD says, Jimmy, that's in the past. Let's focus on the future. That's exactly what we're going to do. Shout out to all the cappers who are in the chat with us. Mac Beavers, Sammy Calmer leaning towards the Giants, the Chargers, Minnesota over, Saints under, Houston, Denver in Chicago. There's our guy Sky Dragon in the house. And Sammy Calmer's moved on. Cincinnati AFC at plus 950. I was looking at that. I was looking closely at that. Now, I do want a little bit more information on, what exactly the extent of the, re-aggravation of that injury is for Burrow. But I took a good long look at that, and I have copied and pasted that here on my worksheet. Sammy, my man. There's Gerald Jones, Paco Healy, Andrew G, Smoke and Mirrors, DX Filer, Wine Time Sports, Joseph Thompson, Nasty Nate. What a great group. What a great group. We got Top Set, Danny Lopez, Terry Walker ready to get to work. RVD 420, Birdie in the house says, let's work. 12-15%. Says Steelers are 21-0 at home on Monday Night Football. Tough trend to bet against. Yeah, and we all succeeded betting them live on our live stream. The live streams have gone excellent. 8-2 on NFL live streams here to start the year. But
I took a bath on the Browns +3 yesterday. I know that doesn't go towards my official record, but I took a bath.
Yeah, it was. The thing is that you make these decisions and then you face the consequences of your actions, and that's what gambling is all about. So it's just not always going to be this smooth ride. There's always going to be bumps along the way to glory, and that from your sports career. It's no different here from our gambling career. Rough. Harold Williams in the house, Jedi for life, ready to get to work. Mercurial. It's a great group. Kay Graham, Terry Walker. Let's get right to work immediately. But let's talk about what did happen here. Can't just pretend it didn't happen. I got torched 5-11. 16 bets is too many. 5-11, down 7.33 units. I lost the Eagles first half team total over 13.5. Cashed, and that went to 13, and that full game easily covered, but whatever. Bills first half team total over 13.5 was a casher. I should have done more on that. Chicago Tampa Bay under 41.5 was a loser. Chiefs first half -1.5. I mean, we were on the phone. At that point, I said, is there 27 seconds left? Is that too much time for Trevor Lawrence to get that field goal in the first half to screw us? And it was. We cashed the full game -3 very easily. The Giants first half and full game was a debacle. New Orleans, Carolina under 40 was a casher. Jets plus 9.5 was horrible. Bengals -3, the same. Falcons -1.5, lost by a half point. Green Bay, Atlanta under 40 was a shame. Colts cashed the money line. The Giants, Arizona under 40 was a loser. New York Jets, Dallas under 38.5 was a loser. Miami, New England under 46 was a casher. Really, really ugly. Really, really ugly. Troy Torrence, you went 4-11. Down 8.44 units. You lost the Eagles -1, Lions plus a half. Teaser, the Lions double result, then Lions -4.5, Bengals -3 in the Chiefs first half, which puts you in a tough spot. You catch the Chiefs full game, lost with the Chargers double up. You cash the Patriots Miami double up, 47 and 46.5. Lost Patriots and the Browns -2 in the money line. Cash the Shaheed over 39.5 receiving prop. And lost to Stevenson over 78.5 rushing receiving. So that's that. Our record will be up on the screen here in a second. That's what happened. And the transparency here is, as important as the capping, really, because it's not something you see effervescent in this industry. People trying to sell you everything and sneak into your window and pull out your wallet. We're just trying to succeed with you. And we did a bad job in week 2, and we take full blame for that. Let's move on to week 3 right now. We start Thursday, September 21st, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. And with all of the horror, I mean, I'm 21-22, down 3.73 units. You're 15-19, but with an average line of plus 123, you're down just 1.06 units. So, look, we're right there. We're right there. One nice big week, we'll both be back in the black, and we'll start building from there. So nothing. It was a shame and a foul and bad, but we can climb right out of it. Let's go. New York Giants, San Francisco 49ers, the Thursday nighter. These Giants 1-1, fortunate to be 1-1, opening up down 60-0 after 6 quarters of action. We're in Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California. The 49ers have looked dominant. Now making their home opener at Levi Stadium. 74 Fahrenheit, sunny, 11 miles per hour is the weather. Let's get right into the line history here for this one. On the spread, we're going to use Pinnacle's lines, and Pinnacle doesn't put out these lines until after the games are finished. This came out at -10 at -108 for the 49ers, and they're now at -10.5. Now that 10.5 is plus 104, so it is a slight move. It is just a slight move there. Let's move on to the total in this one. We're sitting at a 45. This opened up at 45. It got up to 46 this yesterday morning at 11:43, and then went right back to 45. Not only that, but since 3:02 p.m. from 3:02 to 5 p.m. there was an 11-cent move to the under just in that 2-hour period. So this has moved 12 cents to the under, and you see almost all the other books hanging 44.5, while there is a 45 here. Slatsy said, have the Giants in survivor pool, feeling very fortunate. What a sweat. Andrew G says, no Saquon on a short week. Now, I mean, Daboll said that he still might be able to play, but we all believe that Saquon won't be there. Sammy Calmer says, leaning to the New York Giants, but I don't know, Barkley playing, like them to carry momentum on a short week and them having stayed out west. So Daboll today said he's hoping at this point that he still suits up, that he hasn't been ruled out. But we all know that the initial thought was this was a 2 to 3 week injury. Al Cervic, 49ers -13.5 at plus 130 has him. Let's take a look at the cash flow here for this Thursday nighter. You have 15% of the tickets and 11% of the cash on the New York Giants. So this is a very, very, very public spot. In terms of tickets right now, There is no other game on the board at 85% of the tickets on one side. Now, the Cowboys have 84% of the tickets, and we're just talking tickets, not cash. The Titans have 84% of the tickets. Bills have 80%. Nobody has that 85 number that the San Francisco 49ers have right now. 85% of tickets, 89% of the cash. From a total perspective, it's 50-50 on the tickets, but 61% of the cash on the under, and we've just seen a move towards the under. Sky Dragon says Saquon will not play. My source is Dennis Garcia's common sense. That makes sense to me. Sky Dragon says over is the play. The Giants' defense is poverty. The offense will keep trying. Short week. Defense is tired. I mean, that all makes sense to me. Let's set a table up for Troy Torrence and hear what his thoughts are. And here is this table. The Giants did come back from that 20-0 halftime deficit to shock the Cardinals 31-28. I know a lot of you guys moved on them live. Unfortunately for me, I can only live bet a game that I'm focused solely on, and that was the Cowboys-Jets game. And I cashed the live under 42.5 and under 46.5. But, lost with the Jets on the plus money there. This was the biggest comeback win for the Giants since a 21-point rally in 1949. It was a costly victory as they lost Saquon Barkley. We're still debating the time that he will be out for. Brady says the only look in this game at this number is 49ers first quarter. Niners seemingly score on every first drive, and Giants don't. Hitting 9 wide receivers early to me is the way to go. This spot we've talked about, just betting the 49ers early because of Shanny's 15 scripted plays, at least 15 scripted plays. So the Giants have 3 other running backs on their roster. Matt Breida will be the main one, and then they have Gary Brightwell, third-year pro Gary Brightwell, and they have Eric Gray, rookie, who has yet to play an offensive snap. So Barkley had run 17 times for 63 yards and a touchdown. He'd caught 6 passes for 29 yards and a touchdown before he got hurt. He was everything. And last year, he was everything as well. He didn't miss a game due to injury for the first time since that 2018 Rookie of the Year season. And Breida is expected to be the guy here. 7-year vet, second-year Giant. And he also played for the Bills in 2021 when Daboll was the offensive coordinator. The Giants gave up 60 points before Jones turned things around and, ran for the touchdown. Team's first points of the season, third most points given up before scoring since 1950, the 60 points. Danny Dimes was 26 of 37 for 321 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also ran 9 times for 59 yards. Hyatt led receivers with 2 catches for 89 yards. And Darren Waller had 6 catches for 76 yards. We saw the horrific wide receiving group that they had last year in New York, and he's got a lot more weapons here. Now it's a much tougher schedule, and this is a really tough spot here. The offense put up 439 yards, went 7 of 12 on third down, 4 of 5 in the red zone. Now, the defense looked awful in the first half, but it did strengthen late. They still allowed a sad sack Cardinals offense to put up 379 total yards, run for 151 on them. So what will the 49ers do to them on a short week? So for the second straight week, these Giants were held without a sack. 0 sacks. They did manage 6 quarterback hits on Dobbs. Jason Pinnock was all over the field, 13 tackles, 3 of them coming for a loss. Andrew Thomas with the hamstring injury was inactive. There's a hope that he was inactive so that he could play here tonight on Thursday. And Brad Bredesen is in concussion protocol. So the hamstring injury for Andrew Thomas, if he's not there, it'll be Joshua Azudu again starting in his place. The 49ers come in off a tougher than expected 30-23 victory at the Rams. They were just 2 of 9 on third down, but they were outgained by the Rams, 386-365. Brock Purdy doesn't throw a touchdown, has a passer rating under 95 for the first time in his career, 17-25 for 206 yards. And Shanahan's taking a lot of heat for having McCaffrey out there for every single offensive play when they knew they were playing again on Thursday. Elijah Mitchell didn't see the field. He says Elijah Mitchell will play a lot more here on this game, which comes so quickly on the heels of the Sunday game. McCaffrey finished with 20 carries for 116 yards and a touchdown. He caught 3 passes for 19 yards. Deebo Samuel was monster, 6 passes he caught for 63 yards, ran 5 times for 38 yards. Now the defense just didn't look as mighty as it did in week 1. McVay's a sharp coach, and there's some dangerous young receivers on that Ram squad. Fred Warner had the only sack, and no one had 2 quarterback hits. Diamodor Lunur and Isaiah Oliver each had picks. And this depth of this 49ers cornerback group will continue to be tested. Samuel Womack is now on injured reserve. Womack was the only depth. Now, he didn't play much, but he was the only depth spot behind Lenoir, Oliver, Travarius Ward, and Ambry Thomas. So Darrell Luter, also rookie cornerback, is on the physically unable to perform list with a bone bruise as a result of a hyperextended knee. So Trey Swilling is being called up from the practice squad. Now, that will be more and more important if you're live betting this game. If you see one of those main four go down, you'll know that there will then be a practice squad guy playing a key spot in the secondary. Here we go. Take it away, Troy Torrence, our Thursday nighter, New York Giants and San Francisco 49ers.
When I first seen this game on the card, I went and looked. I did it on Sunday, and I've seen the public and all the money starting to pour in on the Niners, and immediately made me want to look at the Giants. I mean, this is just a number where the double-digit number sometimes I just can't get past, and I just immediately want to look to the dog. But to beat the Niners, you got to do two things. You got to run the ball, and you got to stop the run. And with Saquon out, I know that's still questionable, but I think he's not going to play. With Saquon out and a run defense that is 28th ranked in the NFL, it's just really hard to start getting behind the Giants to any degree of confidence. Obviously, Jimmy touched on a bunch of stuff. Down 20-0 at half, worst 6 quarters in NFL history, and that's not even close. Their pass block, the Giants' offensive line, okay in the run block, okay run block win rate, terrible in the pass blocking. And you could tell Daniel Jones does not trust this offensive line at all. He leads the league in scrambles. And one thing that the Giants don't have is a vertical threat, but what they were able to do and incorporate this week was Jalen Hyatt, who I was really high on. And I'm surprised he only got 2 targets in the first 2 games. But those 2 targets came in week 2, and he had 80 yards of receiving. I mean, they need the ability to stretch the field, and I think Jalen Hyatt could do that. Hopefully what he put on film will be enough to get him some more tick, because I think that's going to do a lot for this Giants offense, which is pretty weak. And, this Giants defense is just not good. I mean, they look piss poor across. When you get when James Conner averages 5 yards a carry on you and the Cardinals rush for 150 yards, that tells you the state of the defense right there. Now, they did firm up, like Jimmy said, in the second half. Crushed them in the second half, but still, I mean, it's not enough for me to trust at this point. And when you look at the Niners, it's hard to find a hole. But there is one hole when you start digging through this team that I found. And it's with their offensive line, surprisingly. Look at the right side of that offensive line, the right guard, the right tackle. They combine to have the lowest average rankings, player grades in the NFL. And that's where all the pressure is coming from, because they also allowed the highest pressure rate in the NFL over the past 2 weeks. And that's kind of masked by a low amount of passing attempts, right? You don't get a lot of passes from Brock Purdy. And it's masked by a good running game. They are first in the league. I think they're first in the league in yards per carry right now. So, yeah. And this Niners defense speaks for itself. The numbers are really good, but if there's one hole on the defense, it's in the run game. The run block win rate on the defensive line is below league average, well below league average. So, I mean, at this number, I think it's at 10 right now at most books. I think I could only look towards the Giants. If I was looking towards the Niners, I might lean towards first half, protect myself from the back door. But you start looking through some of these ATS trends with the Niners as big favorites. Past 3 years, they're 2-0 ATS as double-digit favorites. And that's in week 17 and 18 versus 2 teams that were clearly tanking. So you got to kind of throw that away. But they are 5-1 ATS at home over the past 3 years with a spread bigger than 7. So, I mean, it's a really tough game. I don't think I'm going to be involved in a side for the first time in a primetime game.
I am surprised that this total is dropping. We saw the 49ers secondary look susceptible against the Rams. And I don't see why that wouldn't continue here. If the Giants can get to 20 points, this game goes over easily. Are you surprised that this is dropping right now down to 44.5?
No, I'm really not surprised, because, I mean, the way the Niners defense looks, I mean, it's comparable to what the Cowboys have put out there, and we've seen what the Cowboys did to the Giants, albeit week 1, albeit in the rain. I think it makes sense that this total is going down, especially being a primetime game.
There's a couple totals here that have moved in the direction I didn't expect. And, after taking it in the bottom mouth in week 2, I don't know if I'm have the confidence to go up against them. At this point, look, Breda has a history with the Niners. And I know that this would be an enormous opportunity for him. And, the Giants built some confidence offensively. And I'm interested to see how high this total spread, I should say, really goes. Because I imagine when they announce, even though we all expect Barkley to be out, when they announce it, that the line is going to move further towards the 49ers. Sharpie says, with how bad the Giants O-line is and Shanahan in primetime smashing first half as he wants in and out with no injuries. Jared TG says, I could see it both ways. Wouldn't be surprised if Niners won like 28-10, though. Sammy Comer giving us a final score of 27-20. Harold Williams on the Niners first half -6.5. And Chris Mack looking at San Francisco team total over 27.5 at -125. I would look at the first half team total over for the 49ers. I would look at that first, because similar to what Sharpie's saying, there's always all right, we're up comfortably. We know how much heat Shanahan took for having CMC playing every single offensive snap. Elijah Mitchell will come in and they'll just start hammering in between the hash marks. So with all of this said and done, and instead of, look at some of these other teams. Look what happened last week look at the Colts.
Jesus.
Colts go up 28-10 at the half, and they only score 3 more points. Now, you would have cashed your team total overs, but the need to pile up offense is not as important as the need to leave healthy, especially when you just played 3 days ago. I guess when it all comes down to it, that 49ers first half team total over is the most appealing thing. We got to move on. This is a huge game, so we're going to spend a little bit more time on the Thursday nighter and the Sunday nighter, and, of course, the double up Monday spot here. But let me just quickly take a look at what the first half team total is on Pinnacle, and then we'll move on to the next game, and we'll try to speed things up a little bit. Here we go over at Pinnacle right now.
14.
You love those when you can get under 13.5. Get under that 14 at 13.5. And 13.5 is at Pinnacle, but it's -148. And that is probably too much juice here. So going to need more time to sit with the Thursday nighter here. But that would be the only thing that would really appeal to me, is the 49ers first half team total over, or even a first quarter team total over. But those, you definitely want to start with the ball when you make that bet, and having a part of your bet being, held hostage by a coin flip is not an appealing thing. Anything else you want to touch on before we move on, Troy, my man?
No, I'm ready to move.
All right, let's go. So no official picks for us on the Thursday nighter here. We move on to Sunday, September 24th. We start at 1 p.m. Eastern. Tennessee Titans 1-1, 0-1 on the road at the Cleveland Browns, 1-1, 1-0 at home. We're at Cleveland Browns Stadium in Cleveland, Ohio, 70 Fahrenheit. There's a chance of showers. 9 miles per hour is the weather. Of course, the main thing that is thought about immediately is Chubb and the injury. Ford looked okay. That big 70-yard run was pretty exciting, but Chubb is a monster, and it's going to be a huge, huge loss for these Browns moving forward. There's been a big move towards the Titans. The Titans opened up at Pinnacle at 3.5. This didn't become available to 9:08 this morning. Opened up at 3.5. -103. That 3.5 within 2 hours, or 2.5 hours, moved from -103 to -126. You want actually up to -132 even. So moved 29 cents in 2.5 hours. Then it moved to 3, and even those 3s are getting hammered. The 3 plus 3 is now at -114. At 1 p.m. today, it was at -105. So we have a big move towards the Tennessee Titans. From a total standpoint here, we're sitting at a 39.5, and that is at a pick'em. This did open up at 40.5, so it's dropped a point. So we have a big move here. No, Cheshire, you're not blocked. So here we go. From the cash flow side of things here, We have Titans, Browns, and we have 55% of the tickets and 99% of the cash on the under. 84% of the tickets and 95% of the cash is the Tennessee Titans. And Al Cervic, no, the Giants did not fly home. They stayed on the West Coast. Al Cervic says, I will do nothing but fade Browns. Watson's being shit in 8 games now. But Cheshire Cat says the Titans are a joke. Terry Walker says, I still like the Browns. Let's set this up. Titans come in off a crucial 27-24 overtime win at home versus the Chargers that snapped their 8-game losing streak dating back to last year. They're now an NFL best 17-10 in games decided by 3 points or less since 2018, and that was, of course, Vrabel's first year. Tannehill looked good. Old man Tannehill, 34 years old, 20 of 24 for 246 yards and a touchdown. They went 6 of 13 on third down, 3 of 4 in the red zone. Traylon Burks led receivers with 3 catches for 76 yards, and DeAndre Hopkins did not practice all week because of an ankle injury, was able to play, caught 4 passes for 40 yards. Derrick Henry ran 25 times for 80 yards and a touchdown, caught 3 passes for 15 yards. That helped the Titans hold on to the ball for 8 minutes and 40 seconds more than the Chargers and helped them control the game. The defense looked strong against the dangerous Chargers offense. They completely shut down their running game. That was, of course, missing Austin Eckler. The Titans had the number 1 run defense last year. They held the Chargers to just 61 yards on 21 carries. Now they face this Browns ground attack that's missing superstar Nick Chubb. The Chargers were just 2 of 14 on third down and 2 of 5 in the red zone. I think we can expect similar numbers from the Browns this week. The Titans finished with 3 sacks and 5 quarterback hits. Like last year, the Titans secondary is again dealing with injuries. Safety Amani Hooker missed the game, and he's still in concussion protocol, so we'll get that first update on tomorrow's Wednesday injury report. And cornerback Christian Fulton also missed the game. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. Rookie left guard Pete Skoronski, the number 11 pick overall out of Northwestern in April, was declared out Saturday with an illness, so he will be back. Tennessee started Xavier Newman in Skoronski's spot, but he looked awful. And then Dylan Radins tore his ACL last December in the loss to the Chargers, took over in the second quarter. And, he looked much better than Newman. But we all expect Skoronski to be fine and back in the lineup here this week. Browns come in on short week, 26-22 loss last night at Pittsburgh. Tough to watch Chubb go down. He had 106 yards on the ground week 1 against the Bengals. He had 64 yards on 10 carries before he got injured. Jerome Ford ran for 106 yards on 16 carries. He's now the number 1 back. He also caught 3 passes for 25 yards. Kareem Hunt met with the Browns today, so we expect him to be back. There's also Leonard Fournette that is available. They could trade for Cam Akers. They could trade for Jonathan Taylor, but Taylor would be expensive. Deshaun Watson was 22 of 40 for 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also ran 6 times for 22 yards, but he lost 2 fumbles, one of which was returned by TJ Watt for the game-winning touchdown, and he is not to be trusted. The face mask, the 2 face mask penalties were, out of fear. They were blatant, and they stopped huge drives and allowed us to cash live unders. The Browns outgained the Steelers 408 to 255. Their defense was excellent. They held the Steelers to just 9 first downs. The Steelers never ran a play from the red zone all game long. I mean, it was impressive. Just 55 yards came on the ground. They held on to the ball 11 minutes longer than the Steelers. Zadarius Smith is dealing with a non-contact injury, and it could be very bad. This was a huge signing to take pressure off of Garrett and Myles Garrett, and this is huge loss if he is lost here. And it was the 4 turnovers that ultimately did them in. I agree with this move to the under, to the 39.5. This makes a ton of sense to me. And, we often see teams step up in their first game without their star, which is something we will talk about with the Cincinnati Bengals. Take it away for us here, Troy. Titans, Browns.
Yeah. I started digging into this game, and obviously the first thing I always look at is the market, and we notice that this is a public road dog. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that this would be the biggest public road dog in the history of public road dogs, to be honest, because, I know you're saying about 84% of bets, 90-ish% of cash, and I'm seeing even more than that at this point. So my question is this number getting too low? It's about to cross 3. I think we'll end up seeing a 2.5, and I think that's a little questionable because we've seen what Cleveland did on defense, and they allowed 55 yards on the ground, but 80% of that came on 1 play. All the passing yards, about half of their passing yards came on 1 play as well. But the thing is, despite what the defense could do, this injury to Chubb just changes the trajectory of this team in a massive way. His IQ in the backfield is probably the best in our generation. Patience on every carry, sitting behind blocks, just trying to grind out yards, constantly falling forward. I mean, what he does is incredible. And the run blocking unit, this offensive line as a run blocking unit is 24th rated in the NFL. And that just speaks volumes to how efficient Chubb was on the ground. But my hopes for Deshaun Watson are waning. Before the season, I had faith that, Deshaun might have some type of return to form to what he used to be as an MVP. That's just not happening. He looks uncomfortable in the pocket. He has trouble making decisions. He's constantly missing or not throwing to open receivers. And he has the second highest pocket time in the NFL. And that just speaks to how indecisive he is. He looks it, and the numbers bear that out. And he, that's second highest pocket time next to Bryce Young, a rookie quarterback, and he's right up there with him. This entire dynamic of this team is about to change without Chubb. So we got to see what that looks like, because Ford is good, but there's no other Chubb in the NFL right now. So we'll have to see what the offense looks like. That remains to be seen. The defense, I mean, do we have to touch on numbers? What they've done is incredible. The losses of Darius Smith is real, and it's a concern of mine. And Jimmy, did you touch on the injuries at the defensive backfield?
No, we didn't hit the secondary too hard. No.
Right. I think two of their starting DBs, including Newsome, who I thought was one of the best DBs in the league at the time, he went down. I think he came out of the game and didn't return. So there's still a lot of questions with this game. I think that if it's about to close under 3, I'd probably be backing the Browns again. And you're going to see that a common theme is, and I don't know if it's bias or not. So please, Jimmy, if you think I'm being biased, fucking stop me, man. Because, I was on the Browns. We're going to talk about some teams later. I've been heavy on the Browns, and I'm feeling like that's going to be the right side this week again. Because when I look at the Titans, I mean, I think that they were lucky to escape with a win. They had a few penalties in Charger territory on 3rd and long, 3rd and over 10 yards that were questionable flags at best that ended up leading to touchdowns. That would have been settled for those should have been field goals, not touchdowns. And I mean, Tannehill, he was sacked on 17% of his pass attempts, yet this pass blocking ranking that they're getting is 14. I think it doesn't really reflect in the grade. So I'm a little bit questionative about that. But they were able to hit some deep shots. And if you're a Titans backer, that's something you want to see. In week 1, they averaged 2.5 air yards per attempt. In week 2, they led the NFL with an 8.0 air yards per attempt. On the ground, Tajay Spears was way more efficient than Derrick Henry. Tajay Spears averaged 6.1, Derrick Henry 3.2 yards per carry. But albeit Tajay Spears, some of his carries were on 2nd and 3rd and long. Where he turned out some given yards on a cushioned or shell defense. But Vrabel and Tannehill basically scoffed at the Chargers defense and said they go from years of passing the ball to dink and dunk small passes. You don't see Tannehill hitting these deep shots like this. I've never seen it out of Tannehill. So I was very surprised to see that. And on defense, this Titans team is surprisingly one of the best teams in the league in 2 categories. That's in the red zone, where it's very important to be good, and on 3rd down, where it's vitally important to be good. I think they held the Chargers to like 2 of 14 on 3rd down. I mean, I think that speaks volumes to Vrabel. It's just really hard for me in this game because I could see the Browns jumping out to a lead, and if the Browns jump out to a lead, how are they going to dig out of that hole with the defense they're going to be up against? So I'm kind of leaning towards the Browns in this one, and I'd probably be on it if it's going to close at 2.5.
Sky Dragon made the game Cleveland -3 with a total of 38. Terry Walker leaning to the over. I think that this under is the way to play it here. Ron Crawford moving to Cleveland money line. Sharpie says expect big shots with Tannehill now having D-Hop, the best 50-50 ball guy in the world. So I think that
I don't think D-Hop is the concern on the deep ball, personally. I mean, he does win the 50-50 balls. He's not open, but he makes all the catches. But at the same time, Treylon Burks is the deep threat. Who caught the deep passes for them? I thought it was Treylon.
In their Last spot, yeah, it was Trey Long 3 for 76. D-Hop dealing with the ankle injury, and hopefully he'll be a little better here. A little healthier here. Shout out to Trade 8, now a member of Pub Sports Radio. It means a ton to us. Thank you for that. And Chris Mack saying Greg Newsome is considered day to day. JT Joseph Thompson says Titans fade the Browns every game. This is a spot where, historically, the books make a ton of money because everybody will be betting against the Browns here. And we see this in all team sports. I don't really consider baseball one of them, but all team sports where a team down their star player steps up. I don't know if I have the balls to do it, but I do think I have the balls to bet the under 39.5, which I expect to move on now when this show wraps up. So I think I've lost.
I'm going to mark that down, Jimmy, because I agree. I mean, based on everything I'm looking at and everything that I've seen, the under seems to be a solid play, even at 39.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. All right, let's roll on. 1 p.m. Eastern, Atlanta Falcons 2-0 to start the year. The Detroit Lions 1-1. We're at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. Let's take a look at the line history to get started here in Detroit. This one's going to be a beauty. We have the Lions at -3 right now. That -3 is juiced to -120. This opened up at -4. So it's moved a full point. Now, when it got down to 3 this morning at 10:37 a.m. at Pinnacle, it was a pick'em. So since that 3, there's been a 14-cent move towards the Detroit Lions. Let's move over to the total here in this one, Lions, Falcons, and we're sitting at a 45.5. This opened up at 47. Again, this didn't come out until Sunday night at 7:27 p.m. It opened up at 47 and dropped down to 45.5. Now that is juiced to the over. Take a look at the cash flow then for this Atlanta Falcons spot. We have 45% of the tickets and 72% of the cash on the Falcons. You can imagine that those big bets came in at 4, although they couldn't be too big, as we know there are limits until about midnight tonight into Wednesday. From a total scenario, 47% of the tickets and 69% of the cash is on the under. Sammy Calmer leaning to the over. Jarek White said he's fading the Falcons. It's taken me a long time to say that properly. Falcons. Falcons are now 2-0 after outscoring the Packers 13-0 in the fourth quarter on their way to a 25-24 victory. Now, they dominated yardage and possession. They outgained the Packers 446 to 224. They held the ball for 36 minutes and 15 seconds of the game. Desmond Ridder looked better, 19 of 32 for 237 yards, touchdown and a pick. He also ran 10 times for 39 yards and a touchdown, something we've been curious to see if we'll see more of. We certainly didn't see much of it in his 4 games last year. The Falcons were once again carried by their ground game, and this is still a ground game that doesn't have Cordero Patterson in it. He did not play for the second straight week, even though he was not even on the team's final injury report. It's very interesting what's going on there. You expect him to be a big piece of this puzzle, so maybe he will be this week. Bijan Robinson, what a monster game, ran 19 times for 124 yards, caught 4 passes for 48 yards. Robinson, Algier, and Ridder combined for 45 carries and 211 yards and 1 touchdown. And Drake London finally got a piece of the pie. 0 catches and 1 target in week 1. 4 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown week 2. Now, only 5 Falcons caught passes. They were hurt by going just 2 of 5 in the red zone. We're going to see a lot of that from these younger or pseudo rookie quarterbacks, even though he did play 4 games last year. They didn't get much pressure on Jordan Love. 1 sack, 3 quarterback hits, but they shut down the pack when it counted. In those last 3 possessions, the Packers got 11 yards, no first downs. Love did not complete any of his 6 passes. The Packers were just 3 of 9 on third down, and they were held to 224 yards. So the defense is impressive. And I think Arthur Smith is not a good coach. I think he's a great coach. I really believe in what he's doing. I always have since he came aboard. The Lions come in off a disappointing 37-31 overtime loss at home at the hands of the Seahawks. Goff had another strong game, 28 of 35, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. That interception was his first in 383 attempts. So he was only 30 away from Aaron Rodgers' NFL record. But it was returned 40 yards for a TD. I mean, they lose the turnover battle 3-0, and that cost them the game. The Lions were 6 of 11 on third down. They put up 418 total yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown caught 6 passes for 102 yards, but he lost a fumble, and he has a turf toe injury. So he was seen putting a steel plate in his shoe and taping his big toe up. And that's, I mean, Troy can touch on that much more than I can, what you have to do to handle turf toe. He's playing through it. And, if it's an issue here, I don't know how he's going to be able to run and cut at his highest level. So is he going to sit a week or two? I don't see this being talked about at most places right now. But it's crucial for us to look at the practice reports and see what's going on with him and turf toe. Josh Reynolds caught 5 passes for 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. Samuel Laporta had 5 receptions for 63 yards. David Montgomery ran 16 times for 67 yards. He also caught a pass for 7 yards, but he lost a fumble. The defense looked awful. They got no pressure on Geno. They sacked him once and hit him once, despite Seattle starting Stone Forsythe and Jake Curran in place of Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. We saw how bad they looked in week 1. Did they improve like wildly in 7 days, or is the Lions defense a lot weaker than we expected? They allowed the Seahawks to put up 393 total yards, go 5 of 11 on third down and 4 of 5 in the red zone. Defensive end James Houston fractured his ankle. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. Montgomery was carted off the field in the fourth quarter, but Campbell's saying it's just a bruise. His status is unclear. If Montgomery can't go, then Jahmyr Gibbs will get a much bigger workload. And Jahmyr Gibbs ran 7 times for 17 yards, got 7 of 9 targets for 39 yards. And then Vaitai Halapoulivaati limped off the field in the fourth quarter, and he hurt his knee. They haven't given exactly what's going on, but he's expected to be out for a few weeks. So they already have Taylor Decker inactive. That meant Matt Nelson was in the starting lineup. So the way we see it right now, this defense isn't as good as we thought, and this offensive line is hurting. And I see why this move has gone from 4 to 3 for the Falcons, but I don't want to jump all over 1 week of football and make, bold statements about who the Detroit Lions are. Maybe you can help us here. Take it away, Troy. Falcons, Lions.
This Lions team, just like the Browns, kind of broke my heart this past week. A lot of because of what Jimmy was talking about with their defense. I mean, their defense across the board rates in the bottom third of the league, maybe even more, bottom 15% of the league, 31st, 26th, 26th. I mean, does it matter what it is? They're all the bottom tier of the NFL right now, and they cannot guard in the passing game. Let's talk about the offense real quick because they do have some injuries. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're asking me about turf toe. Well, turf toe is, in what my opinion was one of the main reasons why I didn't have that chance in the NFL, because of this history of turf toe that I ended up getting some major surgery on after my football career. And let me tell you, man, turf toe is nothing to be fucked with. I'm surprised. I'm looking at some injury reports right now. I'm surprised. Everything looks like he's in and good to go. But if you keep playing on turf toe, you're playing with fire. You're playing with your career, because if you can't get off the ball when you're driving into the ground, you're putting your back foot into the ground, you're driving off the ball, that's where it hurts. It's not going to hurt as much as in the routes. It's going to hurt on your get off. Your first 2-3 steps, your explosiveness is going to be heavily impacted. So, I mean, if it were me, I would keep him out of the game. I don't know if that's going to happen, but they're playing with fire with him. And this offensive line, yeah, they're going to have some injuries, but they've been really, really good. Third in both pass and run blocking. They only allowed pressure on 8% of the Goff's pass attempts. And Goff, through 2 weeks, has the lowest poor pass percentage in the NFL. It's funny that one of those poor passes that he made got picked off and taken back for a touchdown. So it's a little unlucky, in my opinion. But still, this Lions defense is like, I'm not trying to make excuses for this defense because it was bad. And if you rewatch the tape, it is every bit as bad as you think it would be. No pressure on Geno Smith, the ability to make all the decisions in the pocket that he likes. And without CJ Gardner-Johnson, I mean, I'm going to be looking towards some props, I think, on the Falcons at wide receiver, whether it's receptions or longest reception. I think I'd be going with those 2 routes. I'll be looking towards Drake London or maybe a Mac Hollins longest reception. I mean, you lose CJ Gardner-Johnson, and now you're going to be dependent on Breon Branch, who I think they're going to move back. He's a rookie. They're going to put him back at safety, and I think that's going to be a whole new look for them. So, yeah, I'm not very high on this Lions team on the defense, especially. For the Falcons, despite this win against Green Bay, I mean, I'm not really impressed with this team. They were down by double digits heading into the fourth quarter versus the Packers, and they were tied against the Panthers, who's starting to look more and more like a really bad team, especially early in the season as Bryce Young is starting to get his feet under himself. But can the Falcons have those fourth quarters on the road with Desmond Ridder at quarterback? That remains to be seen. I think the Packers lost that game more than the Falcons won that game, and it was a lot of conservative play by the quarterback. Both these quarterbacks I'm talking about the Packers now, but Desmond Ridder has he's passing for the lowest amount of attempts in the league. I don't think that's any surprise to you. And that's because their run blocking is one of the best in the NFL, rated 4th, and their pass block is one of the worst, rated 28th. It was great to see them incorporate Drake London. The utilization of Bijan Robinson, I think is beautiful, what they've done with him. But if you go back and watch the film on Desmond Ridder, he threw 4 picks that game. Only 1 got picked, but he threw 4 of them. And 1 got dropped that would have been for 6. It would have been a touchdown in his own territory. So I don't want to make excuses for this kid. Yeah, he made plays down the stretch, but it was only 1 in the last 2 scoring possessions that they had. It was just 1 big throw. So, I still don't want Desmond Ridder as my quarterback in a 2-minute drill. Definitely not, especially on the road. On the defensive side of things, they're very average in the secondary, and that's probably a reflection of their bad pass rush, which is ranked 23rd right now. And their run defense, surprisingly, is 4th. But who is that against? The Packers without Aaron Jones and the Panthers with a bad offensive line and no identity on the offensive side. Looking at what Sammy Coleman was saying in the chat, I think I'm agreeing with him. I'm liking an over in this game. I'm not sure if I want a team total or if I just want the full game over because it's getting up there. It's getting up to the limits of where I would like to bet it at. But still, I'd be looking towards a team total over in this game and probably on the Lions. And this number getting down to 3, that 2.5, just like with the Browns. I think if it gets to 2.5, I might be grabbing some Lions.
And then, that would happen if Monroe St. Brown was announced out. Birdie says he's not touching this game now. He bet the Falcons +5 on Monday morning. He says wrong team is favored here. Should be a pick 'em. The only issue is Falcons traveling next week, or he would pound the table. So
here you go, Jimmy. I got a number for you. I forgot to drop this. So since 28, and this is why I haven't moved on the Lions, because of course I wanted the Lions after taking an L with them. I like grabbing my team again in the following week. Since 2018. Home favorites that lost as a home favorite in their prior game, and the spread is shorter than 4.5. They're just 5-15 ATS.
Wow. You can still get that 3.5. It's at -115 at Pinnacle if you want the Falcons at that number. And this is another total that doesn't make sense to me. The drop from 47 down to 45.5 doesn't make sense, and I just don't feel at this point that I want to get in the way of those. But, a capper with confidence would, and Dennis Garcia wants to. Dennis Garcia says he already bet the over, and he'll bet Detroit at some point if it keeps dropping.
Jimmy, do you think the Lions could stop the run?
Have we seen, any sign of it? The Seahawks, a lot of, what the Seahawks did to them was, through the air. But
and on offense last year, the Seahawks, I'm pulling it up right now, but I'm pretty sure they were highly efficient. They were 5th overall, averaging 4.8 yards per carry. And they did a good job versus the run, but why would you run the ball when you could just find open holes when you're throwing the.
Yeah, I don't. This makes very little sense to me here. That this would be dropping, and when something doesn't make sense to me, I don't attack it. I kind of take a step back. The Falcons +3.5. I feel like that does make sense. But as you said, 2-minute drill. Who do you want, Goff or Ridder? It's not even worth bringing up. Of course, the way Goff is playing, you'd want Goff, and Ridder can't really be trusted with his arm. So this is tricky. This is all very, very tricky for me. So I guess when it's said and done, I guess I can lean to the Falcons. Birdie said if they weren't heading over to UK next week that he would be on the Falcons money line. I think that 3.5 is, it's something that you must get, is that 3.5. So nothing here at this point, but I understand why people are on the over. I really do. And Troy, do you have anything here as a lean, or do we move past it?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards a team total over with the Lions, but I haven't gotten there yet.
All right, so I'm just going to put that note down for me. Troy is leaning to the Lions team total over. All right, let's move on. Next up for us, we head to Green Bay, Lambeau Field. New Orleans Saints 2-0, 1-0 on the road at the Packers. 1-0, 0-0 at home. 69 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 12 miles per hour. Let's take a look at the spread here in this Packers game. We have it sitting at 2, -2 for the Pack. That's where it opened, so we haven't seen much movement. When it came out this morning at 9:12 a.m., there was a 7-cent move towards the Saints, and it's come back. So at this point, we've only had 2 cents of movement towards the Saints. So, it's sort of calming when you don't have a lot of movement to panic over. Let's take a look at the total here for Saints Packers, and we're sitting at 42.5 at Pinnacle. They've moved just 3 cents to the over, while other books have moved it to 43. So this is sitting at 42.5. Let's get over to the total for this one here. Saints, Packers, cash wise on the total, 60% of the tickets and 74% of the cash are on the under. It seems to be moving in the opposite direction, though. And from a spread standpoint, we have 66% of the tickets and 93% of the cash on the Green Bay Packers. That's a lot of money on the Green Bay Packers here. Saints come in off an underwhelming 2017 victory at Carolina, but they outgained the Panthers 341 to 239. They went 7 of 16 on third down, and they struggled again in the red zone. And with Derek Carr at quarterback, that's just going to be something that happens. It's not a comfortable place, the red zone. Derek Carr was 21 of 36 for 228 yards and an interception. I was surprised that the over a half interception was at a pick-em price, and our guy, Spenny Penny Bombs, was all over that, and it was a celebration when the interception happened. Chris Olave is a monster. Another great game. 6 catches for 86 yards. Shaheed caught 4 passes for 63 yards. You were on that over. Michael Thomas caught 7 passes for 55 yards. The reason or the issue with this team is Jamal Williams left early with the hamstring injury. The Saints are already without Alvin Kamara, who's serving the final game of his suspension. They don't have their third-round pick, Kendra Miller. He's available. He's not available. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. So that left Tony Jones, and he was elevated from the Saints practice squad as the only running back remaining on the roster. Jordan Mims is the only back on the club's practice squad now, so he'll probably get called up. Jones Jr. ran 12 times for 34 yards and 2 touchdowns after Williams went down. Now they have Taysom Hill, who can easily pick up the slack, and we saw that yesterday. 9 carries for 75 yards. This defense shut down the Panthers, holding them to just 239 yards and 1 and 3 in the red zone. Now that is the Panthers, but the Saints almost went 2 full games without giving up a touchdown. I mean, that was a Adam Thielen touchdown with 1:16 left. They held the Panthers to just 4 of 14 on third down. They applied pressure on Bryce Young all night, 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits. And the secondary was excellent. I mean, Bryce Young only threw for 153 yards. We know how dangerous this secondary is. It's very, very good. The Packers come in off a 25-24 loss at Atlanta that saw them outscored 13-0 in the fourth quarter. Jordan Love threw for 3 more touchdown passes. So he has 6 in 2 games, but he was unable to move the ball when everything was on the line. And those last 3 possessions, 11 yards, no first downs. He went 0 of 6 through the air. It was very disappointing, especially for Packers backers, which I wasn't. Love finished 14 and 25 for 151 yards, 3 touchdowns, ran twice for 23 yards. Aaron Jones out with a hamstring injury, and the offense felt that loss. A.J. Dillon ran 15 times for 55 yards, caught a pass for 8 yards. Dontavian Wicks led the Packers with 40 yards receiving from just 2 catches. Jaden Reed caught 4 passes for 37 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the Packers only gained 224 yards versus the Falcons, and it's not going to get any easier here. Defensively, the Packers defense got gashed on the ground. The Falcons ran for 211 yards on them, and clearly the Saints aren't going to be able to do that with Tony Jones Jr. They're only going to be able to do that, with Taysom Hill. So that's a problem, and it's a problem in the game script if you're creating it. Luckily, Green Bay's worst area is not going to be as affected with the Saints squad that's so thin at running back. So Aaron Jones hamstring, Christian Watson hamstring, and David Bakhtiari knee. They didn't dress. And then the Green Bay lost another offensive starter with Elgin Jenkins went down in the first half with a knee injury. So in the second half, Lucas Van Ness, their linebacker, was sidelined with an elbow injury. I don't really understand the love for the Packers here. I don't get it. And I don't care that much that Jamal Williams isn't there. I do get concerned about the playbook decreasing if you can't really pass out of the backfield. I get concerned about that, but I'm surprised that there is, and let's just touch on it once more here, that the Packers have 66% of the tickets and 93% of the cash. Take it away for us here, Troy. Saints, Packers at Lambeau.
I mean, when you first started looking at this game, what do you think? To me, it was that the Packers were going to be the play because they were up double digits in the fourth quarter. They blew a game on the road. They're coming back home off a loss versus a team that's 2-0. That very could be 1-1. I mean, the Saints have not looked. They've been kind of underwhelming as well. Neither of their wins were impressive to me. So this is a game I'm very interested to watch, but I don't know if I'm going to be back in either of these two sides. I was really heavy. I mean, I was really trying to find a way to back the Packers, but, Birdie's actually making me a little bit more nervous backing the Packers. But you do look at these two teams and you notice you've got a great offensive team in the red zone in the Packers. They're 5 of 6, 83%, number one in the league, versus the Saints, who can't score in the damn red zone on offense, but their defense is one of the best in the NFL and holding people out of the end zone. This is a very tough game, and the Saints' offensive line, I think that's really where I wanted to attack. They're one of the worst offensive lines in the league so far through 2 weeks, and they did play the Titans, and I know the Titans are ferocious. But the Panthers, I mean, they're probably middle of the pack, but oh man, it's just this is a really tough game. I think I'm going to use it more as a benchmark game and to gain information on these two teams. But yeah, I mean, for me, I just want to back the Packers off that tough loss. I think they'll be able to execute down in the red zone where, I mean, you can't trust Derek Carr. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm interested in the Saints, but I don't think I'm interested enough to put money on them here. I don't think that was it was a very underwhelming victory against Carolina, but they did the job. They did what was necessary, and they just did the job in week 1, 2. Do I think the Saints are a good enough team without a running back to go into Green Bay and beat them? I guess not. If I put it that simply, I guess not. Birdie says, is it the under here that would be looked at? And I'm interested in the under. I'm a little surprised here with the market. I'm a little surprised. You have 61% tickets, 74% cash on the under, and yet we see that the over is what's being juiced. If I had a free bet, I would definitely move on the under. I think that if you want the Packers, you do want to know if Aaron Jones will be back from that hamstring injury, and we'll get a better idea tomorrow. I'm sure he won't be at practice here, but the under makes sense. And I guess the Packers Atlanta game, I still need to sit with for longer. How bad the Packers looked in the fourth quarter. But Jordan Love's thrown 6 touchdown passes in 2 games. The statistics that I'm studying are confusing. And I don't trust Derek Carr. The last thing I want is to, have money on Derek Carr and he goes back to pass. I'd be much more comfortable with Taysom Hill back there. And I hope Taysom Hill gets more snaps.
Hey, so yeah, Birdie's got me questioning the Packers too, because I was kind of leaning towards the Packers a lot. And another stat that I'm looking at here with Jordan Love, he was only pressured last week on 12% of his dropbacks, but his poor pass percentage was 25%, almost double what his pressure percentage was. So unforced bad passes and errors that Jordan Love was able to get away with along with Desmond Ridder. So you got two guys making errors and getting away with it with the Packers and the Falcons.
Yeah. Sky Dragon says back-to-back road games, short week, got the division win. Green Bay annoyed after blowing a big lead. Capping-wise, love Green Bay, but his number came out to -1. Harold Williams leaning towards the Packers. Terry Walker says, do not think teams are getting somewhat better. I'm thinking over should start up soon. I don't know. I need more time with Jordan Love, and that fourth quarter was alarming. It was alarming for anybody who wants to back the Pack. Now the line moved to 3, and everybody got paid on the Packers. So, all right, this one is. I'm not even going to really. I guess if I was to write down like a lean, I guess I lean towards the under, but the market, I do not. If the money's coming in on the under and the over is being juiced, well, that makes me very uncomfortable. So I'm going to move past it right now. And yeah, do I really want these Saints on a short week? I mean, I think, there's that's very uncomfortable as well. So, and back-to-back road games is an important point. So this has become way less and less and less appealing. But I like the Saints, and I didn't realize that I did. I didn't, seeing I guess I had a bias of watching that defense so banged up last year and looking atrocious. And Dennis Allen, with his offensive coordinator that's been there for 15 years, just doing nothing creative, even though you have Taysom Hill back there as well. So, but I like them more than I thought. Let's move past this one here. Let's move on to Denver Broncos at Miami Dolphins, 1 p.m. Eastern, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. 85 Fahrenheit, scattered thunderstorms, 7 miles per hour. Let's go into the line history here for this one. And we'll start with the spread. We have Miami sitting as 6.5 point favorites. And, every single game the Broncos have played, and I know they only played 2, so it's not, but even here, I find them appealing at first look. And when they got off to that fast start on Sunday, I was beating myself up. I didn't want it because I didn't want the hook. I was beating myself up. And then, of course, they fell apart. And watching them fall apart was shocking. Absolutely shocking. This opened up at 6.5, the spread, and hasn't moved. And Miami's looked very, very good in their first 2 games of the year. This total is sitting at 48, and it hasn't moved either. So we have a 6.5, we have a point spread, and a total that hasn't moved. Ron Crawford, NFL spreadsheet, is in Denver plus 6.5. Spreadsheet last week was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here we go. It is Denver plus 6.5. It's just crazy. Imagine watching this Broncos team 2 games in and actually wanting to bet them. I mean, what the hell's wrong with me? I can't. Jesus, absolutely ridiculous. But it is my first thought. 44% of the tickets and 88% of cash is on this over. 44 and 88, and it's not moved since it became available yesterday at 3 p.m. So that's interesting. And then the spread has not moved. Let's take a look at the cash for the spread. And that is 22% of the tickets and 65% of cash is on the Broncos. Interesting. And that's why that number is just sitting there. Saturated says Miami's D is better than people think, especially at home. I think watching them play the Chargers gave us maybe a false sense of, what that D is, and we know that Fangio's there and it should change. I can understand that. Broncos coming off that wild 35-33 loss at home versus the Commanders. They lost despite scoring touchdowns on their first 3 drives. I mean, that's the first time they've done that since 2010. Their 18-point blown lead, tied for the 4th largest at home in franchise history. Russell Wilson had a big day, 18 for 32 for 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also ran 6 times for 56 yards, but of course he lost a fumble. Marvin Mims Jr., Brandon Johnson, these guys look great. Why weren't they targeted more? I mean, it just didn't seem to make sense. I mean, you had something that's working and you got away from it. Marvin Mims Jr. caught 2 passes for 113 yards and a touchdown. He ran twice for 10 yards, returned a punt for 45 yards. Looks like the real deal to me. Brandon Johnson caught 2 passes for 66 yards. Both went for touchdowns. Why is he only targeted twice? Cortland Sutton caught 5 passes for 66 yards. What a security blanket the size of Sutton out there. Jerry Jeudy returned from his hamstring injury, caught 3 passes for 25 yards. He needs to become a bigger part of this offense, and he's coming back from the hamstring issue. Javonte Williams ran 12 times for 44 yards, caught 2 for 14. The defense got pressure on Sam Howell and still couldn't get stops. They finished with 4 sacks, 8 quarterback hits. Howell threw for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns and was a perfect 3 for 3 in the red zone. And for the second game in a row, Kareem Jackson ejected for a dangerous hit that caused a concussion. And there's a lot of wondering whether he'll get suspended now. The Dolphins looked excellent in their 24-17 victory at New England. They outgained the Pats 389-288. Tagovailoa now 5-0 against the Patriots. Coach Belichick, I mean, that's impressive. 21-30 for 249 yards, touchdown the pick. Jalen Waddle caught 4 passes for 86 yards, but he took a hard hit late, and he's now in concussion protocol. So if he's not in, then Braxton Berrios will get the main run, and River Craycraft may as well. Belichick was able to slow down Tyreek Hill. He caught 5 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown, but Raheem Mostert ran 18 times for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. This Miami defense was strong throughout. They constantly applied pressure on Mac Jones, 4 sacks, 8 quarterback hits. They held the Patriots to just 288 total yards and only 2 entries into the red zone. Salvin Ahmed left with a groin injury, backup running back. I don't think that hurts him that much. And Xavier Howard had an interception. Take it away here, a fascinating one. Broncos, Dolphins, and the spreadsheet play of the day is Denver plus 6.5.
I immediately wanted the Broncos looking at this game, just like you. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I think they could have easily been 2-0. And I think if they were 2-0, what is the spread if they're 2-0? 4? Maybe a 4.5, maybe a 3.5. But my issue with this Broncos team, there's 2 things. We'll get to the quarterback situation in a minute. But the secondary, I mean, where we thought the Broncos were going to be strong, they're weak. What are they going to do when Tua and the Dolphins roll out their offense when Howell's passing for 300 yards and not throwing any picks? It just blows my mind. I don't understand quite what I'm seeing on this defense for the Broncos. Their coverage is ranked 27th in the NFL, and their run defense is 20th, allowing 5 yards per carry. They lost 2 consecutive games as home favorites. I mean, this is exactly where you would want to back a team, right? Going on the road, I think the number looks a little bit short at 6.5. And I just can't believe what I've seen out of this defense. So it's really hard to get behind the Broncos, especially going up against the Dolphins. But on offense, let's talk about Russell Wilson a little bit. Their offensive line is middle of the pack, and I think that's overrated because they're allowing the highest pressure rate in the NFL right now. They're inefficient on third down. Russell Wilson in week 2, the highest pressure rate and the worst pass rate and the highest pocket time in the NFL. So he was sacked 7 times. It's because he's holding on to the ball too long and he's getting pressure. So despite how good the numbers look, and he didn't throw a lot, he threw 1 pick, but I guess he didn't protect the ball all that great, but still he had 8 poor passes, worst pocket time. I mean, his numbers are not good despite the 308 passing yards. So it's hard to get behind the Broncos, even though at the 6.5, it's got to be the right side. I mean, especially with where this number sits. I mean, I think this number is kind of showing strength towards the Broncos. When you got the Dolphins, you got the MVP of the league right now in Tua, making quick decisions, taking exactly what the defense gives him. He's accurate. He's unblitzable. McDaniel knows exactly how to handle him with the elite upside at receiver. I mean, they just got all the pieces on the offensive side. Man, this is really tough. And actually the one thing that I do have on the Dolphins is that they're really bad in the red zone on the defensive side, worse than the NFL. But it's just really hard. I could see value on a teaser maybe with the Dolphins. I really think there's ways you can get a middle on this game and cash on both sides if you're paying attention. Oh, and here you go. Home favorites that won on the road as a favorite. This is talking about the Dolphins with the line between 6 and 7, 8-4 ATS, 12-1 straight up. But if you look at the same metrics, the same criteria, but you put the parameter that it's got to be within the 5th week. So in weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, only 1-4 ATS and 4-1 straight up. So I really think there's an opportunity to get a good middle in this game. I don't know if you want to, put a teaser with the Eagles and look for a live Broncos bet, or you might even be able to get them both live. But I do think that I'm going to be looking to play this game that way.
Sharpie says Patriots, Chargers defense could not get to Tua. Offensive line is legit. Their D is underrated. Miami -6.5, please. Tua going to light up the Broncos like the 4th of July.
Sharpie's big on the Dolphins, huh?
And I get it, but I sit here and I find the 6.5 appealing. And if this does not move to 7 and there's 80% of the cash on the Dolphins, then I'm going to move on the Broncos because there's enough for me that will correlate. Now, if this moves to 7, then I'll just lay off and spreadsheet play today. I agree with, and JW says Dolphins look like a Super Bowl contender. Birdie says odd that they moved it to 6.5, put it smack dab in the Wong range. Yeah. Saturate says Peyton gives me all kinds of clues that this team would be bad preseason. All the talk about how bad the coach was last year, just an excuse for their sub 500 record. Peyton has got to be just livid with the situation here. Okay. Well, I'm going to need more time here. Ron Crawford spreadsheet play today on the Denver Broncos, and I find this appealing. Let's roll on. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, Los Angeles Chargers 0-2, 0-1 on the road at Minnesota Vikings, 0-2, 0-1 at home at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You mentioned before the season started that now that everybody's off the Chargers, it's time to get on the Chargers.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I don't mind. Obviously, we get a better line now. But Sharpie said the exact same thing after 2 games. The exact same thing. And here's Sharpie, a man with, Charger bolts tattooed on his head. And he said the exact same thing after 2 games. And look, I took that when I was breaking down the game, and I was like, yeah, everybody's going to be off the Chargers. Maybe this is the time to grab them. Unfortunately, this is, an angry Viking squad that's 0-2 that just is on the extra rest and preparation, which is so helpful this time of year. And I don't know if I can do it. And I wish I could. And maybe I will have a better chance after we talk it out. So let's do that right now. We have this sitting with the Chargers at -1 at even money. It opened up at -1 at -102. So there's been no movement at all. Why don't we take a look at the money line? Maybe that'll give us a better idea of what's happening here with this Chargers spot. They're sitting right now at -107. They opened up at -109. It did go down to -104. There's been, or -103 even. There's been very little movement. Very, very little movement here. Let's go over to the total. This total is up to 54.5. This opened up at 51.5. We're climbing, and we're climbing high for this total now. Very, very high. Sharpie says this is easy. My team taking 2-0, taking the points, and because they're 0-2, we get value. Better defense, better bad coaching each way. Chargers win by 14 or more. 14 or more. Wow. All right. So let's take a look at the cash flow here. I mean, this is a really, really high total of 54.5. I mean, but the Chargers seem to play those types of football games. Let's take a look at this. On the spread right now, 43% of the tickets, 65% of the cash is on the Vikings. On the money line right now, 39% of the tickets, 64% of cash is on the Vikings. So we got the exact same thing. On the total, though, 79% tickets, 76% cash is on the over. Slatsy says Chargers have given up more passing yards than any team in the NFL the first 2 weeks. Entered Justin Jefferson receiving props, and he got the over 51.5 early. Sharpie says Chargers offense scored 58 points with no turnovers. Vikings can't hang with this offense. Chargers come in 0-2 after their 27-24 overtime loss at Tennessee. Herbert 27-41 for 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and did not have Austin Eckler. And without Eckler, they could do nothing on the ground. Joshua Kelly, 13 carries for 39 yards. Chargers ran 21 times for just 61 yards. Now, Keenan Allen had a massive game. He caught 8 passes for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mike Williams caught 8 for 83. I mean, you'd really think if this Chargers team, have healthy wide receivers. Now I know Eckler is a huge loss, and it certainly looked as if Bosa was hurt with the hamstring injury in week 1, but he's bounced back in week 2. The Chargers couldn't get first downs when it mattered most. 2 of 14 on third down, 2 of 5 in the red zone. So we know that's Eckler's spot. The defense looked much better. Bosa was questionable, the hamstring injury. He had 4 tackles and 2 sacks. They had finished with 5 sacks and 6 quarterback hits. But Khalil Mack, once again, held without a sack or even a quarterback hit. So he's got no quarterback hits through 2 games. Titans went 6 of 13 on third down, 3 of 4 in the red zone. This defense does not look strong, and I thought it would be better this year. And Staley's supposed to be a defensive mind, and God, he just makes me want to punch my computer. The Vikings come in off extra rest after losing 34-28 at Philadelphia in last week's Thursday Nighter. Is Philadelphia just playing bad, or are the Vikings better than maybe we thought that they were? We were all over the Buccaneers in week 1, and the Buccaneers have showed us why we did that. But here, things are a little different. Cousins had a big bounce-back effort, 31-44 for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. He did lose a fumble. Justin Jefferson caught 11 passes for 159 yards, but lost a fumble at the goal line. That was heartbreaking for him. Jordan Addison caught 3 passes for 72 yards, a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson caught 7 passes for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. They were, again, incapable of moving the ball on the ground. Alexander Mattison finished with 8 carries for 28 yards, and he lost a fumble. Without the ability to run the ball, it hurts you. You can't keep opposing offenses off the field. You have to be able to run the ball. The Eagles won the time of possession dramatically, 39-28 to 20-32. The 4 fumbles cost them the game, obviously. They still did a lot of good offensively, but the Vikings could not stop the run. And if Eckler is not healthy or available, that's not going to hurt them here. They were gashed for 259 yards on 48 carries. Joshua Kelly maybe has a better game. Daniil Hunter was excellent. I mean, he really stepped up, and no one else did on the front. 5 tackles, 3 sacks. Now, Cameron Bynum had 15 tackles. Harrison Phillips had 13 tackles and a half sack. Theo Jackson had the interception. They did lose Olamaseka Udo. He left on a cart in the 4th quarter with a knee injury, and this left tackle is done for the year. Quadriceps tenon is done for the year. That's going to hurt them on the offensive line. Take it away here. I'm kind of perplexed with this spot. I understand why there's no movement on the line. Take it away, Chargers, Vikings.
Oh, this is one where I was just going back and forth and doubting myself and seeing what Sharpie had to say about the Chargers. I mean, he does have those bolts on his head, like you said, but I mean, I tend to trust the guy. The guy's a fucking sharp. There's a reason why he calls himself Sharpie, and we all call him Sharpie now. I think that this is a perfect spot for the Chargers to put the Vikings defense on blast. Brian Flores loves the blitz, and the Chargers are a perfect candidate to completely expose them. I actually think you asked the question, are the Vikings playing well, or is the Eagles not playing well? Well, I have a lot of advanced metrics that suggest that Jalen Hurts is hurting his team. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. They fumbled 4 times, lost them all. I mean, that's pretty damn unlucky if you ask me. But that doesn't change the outcome of that game. I mean, I think 6 points is probably about right. I ended up pushing on the Eagles -6. I felt like I got slighted. I felt like I should have cashed that. But, looking back at the game and rewatching it, I guess I understand it. The Eagles did not play well. And I don't think it was a result of the Vikings playing well necessarily. But they can't run the ball, like you said, Jimmy. I mean, it's hard to have success in the NFL if you cannot damn run the ball. 24 attempts. They lead the. Here's what's funny. Here's what blows my mind looking at the Vikings. They led the league in play action passes and were one of the most efficient teams running the play action, but they can't fucking run the ball. So how are they having success? I think that's just trying to maneuver around a little bit and scheme up some offense to give Kirk Cousins a little bit more time. But this middle of the pack offensive line, but they're allowing the 3rd highest pressure rate. On the defensive side, this is a Vikings team I do not believe in. And here's some more interesting metrics that I think I found something with is so their run defense is 31st overall. They did play the Eagles, but they also played the Bucks. That means they weren't winning at the line of scrimmage in the running game against the Bucks. Their pass rush is 30th overall, but their coverage is 4th overall. And there's this inverse correlation here where you don't see this where a pass rush is 30th and the coverage is 4th. Usually those two go hand in hand. A high rating in one leads to a high rating in the other. So I started looking at it a little bit more. This Vikings team blitzed on 50% of their snaps. 50%. I think that's a little much. And I think Brian Flores is putting themselves in a situation to get burnt, especially versus this Chargers team, which I think is well equipped to take advantage. And the Chargers, not to my surprise, they were great offensively. They blew the game. It's just hard to trust this coaching staff to make the right decisions. If I was a defensive coordinator, I would focus the play action. I mean, I would set one edge defender to focus quarterback on all running plays because they're not effective in the running game anyway. But are we going to see any type of adjustment or any type of scheme like that out of the Chargers? That remains to be seen. I can't trust it necessarily on the defensive side from the Chargers at this point, but I don't know if we need to trust their defense as much with what I think the Chargers are going to be able to do on the offensive side of things. So I will be on the Chargers money line. I think I have enough now to move. And the last metric I'll give is on this line movement. So home dogs that flip to home favorites since 2020 are 5-11 straight up and 5-11 ATS. And the average margin of victory for the road team is 6.5 points. So it's a big one.
We expect Eckler not to be available in this game. No timeline on the injury. Would we prefer to wait till he's announced out? When he's announced out, maybe there's a bit of a move on the Vikings.
And then I think if he's maybe what I think of when you ask me that is maybe I'll take the money line right now as a dog, just in case he gets announced back in. But if he's out and the line moves away from me more, I might even choose to put the Chargers in a teaser because I don't see the Vikings winning by margin. This could be one of those spots where whoever has the ball last wins the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would like a teaser too if this gets up to 2.5.
Well, God, the Chargers could cost me a lot of money this year. I agree. I think that Eckler is going to be announced out. I think that at that point that there'll be a slight move towards the Vikings.
Yeah. Do you think their lack of ability to run the ball was the Titans, or was it Eckler, or was it both? Probably
it was
both.
the Titans. I think that Joshua Kelly's going to have a much better game here, and maybe the fact that they were completely shut down from the running game. Because I mean, look what Kelly did in week 1, right? Didn't he? I don't have it in front of me, but I believe he ran for like 93 yards. Now it's easier when you come in after Eckler or with Eckler in certain sets, but I do think that the Titans' run defense is spectacular, best in the league. Or top
and this
3.
is the exact opposite. Top in the league. Now they're getting the worst in the league. They got blown off the ball every fucking play against the Eagles.
Yeah. No, I want the Chargers. I want the Chargers. I just don't think I bet it tonight. I expect, unless Staley's playing mind games, but I don't think he is. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, but I don't think Eckler. The no timetable means that he's not ready. The first injury reports come out tomorrow. We can make a decision. But yeah, I agree. The Chargers are the bet. I just don't think I make it tonight. I'm gonna hold off.
I'm gonna hold off with you. I think that's a good decision. I'm gonna hold the reins a little bit and see what happens with that injury report.
Birdie says, just remember Flores knows this Chargers offense. This is also like you saw this healthy Chargers offense. I mean, other than Eckler, I mean, that's a huge loss. But I mean, how often do we see either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams hurt or both hurt?
And I got a note on that. Yeah, Flores knows this offense, but there's only so much you could do with this defensive roster. They are not good, and there's a reason why they're blitzing 50% of the time. It's to mask some of the issues they're having, issues that I think that I trust that Justin Herbert will expose.
Yeah, Trisha, I don't want anything to do with the under, although I think this is getting pretty high, this total. But I don't want. I want the Chargers, and I guess we had to talk it out. All right, let's move on. Let's move on here. Next up, the New England Patriots at the New York Jets, MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey. 72 Fahrenheit, showers, 11 miles per hour. And we all know what the Patriots have done to this New York Jets team. Jets have lost 14 straight games to the Patriots. And the market moving very, very quickly towards the Patriots. And one of those spots where, it would be nice to get in early. And I know a lot of you have. Let's take a look at the line history. I have the money line up right now, so I'd be curious to see what that has done. Here at Pinnacle, this opened up minus 135. It's now minus 147. It got up to minus 151. Got up to minus 156 yesterday at 5 p.m. Let's take a look at the spread on this one. Of course, this is Pinnacle, who put it out, the line after the game's finished last week. So it's a little different than the look-ahead spots, clearly. For the spread here, we have the Jets at +3. This +3 is very juiced. Now, it opened up at 2.5. Let's look at it from the Patriots side. Opened up minus 2.5, minus 106 at 3 p.m. yesterday. And within 4 minutes, there'd been a 7-cent move. Within an hour and 51 minutes, there'd been a 16-cent move. And within an hour and 53 minutes, it moved to 3. Once it went to 3, there was an actual move on the Jets at first. This was a plus 105, plus 106. Actually, it's still there. So this is a pseudo 3. Like, you can get a 2.5, probably at a decent price. I'm just curious to see what this 2.5 is for the Patriots here at Pinnacle. The 2.5 minus 2.5 minus 117. So it's not too expensive here if you like the Patriots at this number. Andrew Howe liking the Pats minus 5.5. Ron Crawford says Jets divisional home dog. Harold Williams on Pat's money line. Andrew Howe liking the Patriots here.
That's my guy. That's my guy, Andrew Howe, in the chat. What's up, Andy? Hey, man. Hey, alt line on the Pats. What are you, fucking crazy?
Let's go to the total here on this one. The total for this spot sitting at 37, but most books are 36.5. This opened at 37 minus 107 to the under. It's moved 8 cents in that direction. Other books moved it down to 36.5. That is a wildly low, fascinating, excitingly low. We have 56% of the tickets on the under, and they're not giving us a cash count at this point. And when we go over to the point spread for this spot, we have 77% of the tickets and 82% of the cash on the Patriots, and we've seen that 2.5 move to the 3. So let's break it down here. The Patriots have started 0-2 for the first time since 2001. Belichick's second season as head coach of the Pats. They come in off a tough 24-17 loss at home to the Dolphins. Mac Jones, 31-42, 231 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Just 231 yards passing when he completes 31 passes. I mean, that's a low number. He also ran 15 times for 50 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Parker caught 6 for 57. Hunter Henry caught 6 for 52 and a touchdown. And Ramondre Stevenson let a lot of my friends down from the player prop spot. He ran 15 times for 50 yards and a touchdown, caught 3 for 10. So it was about, 10 and maybe 15 yards under what the number was. Zeke was nowhere to be found. 5 carries for 13 yards. That did surprise me. That really did surprise me. They went 7 of 15 on third down, 2 of 2 in the red zone. The secondary was able to hold Tyreek Hill to just 5 catches for 40 yards and 1 touchdown, but was unable to apply enough pressure on Tua. They finished with 1 sack and 2 quarterback hits. Christian Gonzalez, though, has had a great start to his career, and he got a pick there. There are injury issues in the secondary, and they're confusing because they all have the same name. It's the Joneses. So starting quarterback Jonathan Jones was ruled out before the kickoff with the ankle injury. But he has not been put on injured reserve. So there are people that believe because of that, he is capable of a quick return and could be here. They had to use Sean Wade against Miami, and that did not go very well. Then Jack Jones will miss at least 2 more games. He's been placed on the IR. There's an expectation that Jack Jones is going to be out for a while. And then you have Marcus Jones. Marcus Jones took a hit in the second quarter, and he has a shoulder issue. So that's a lot here. That's a lot. So there's some problems here. They had Owenu come back, and he only ended up playing 46 offensive snaps on the offensive line. He didn't look very good, but he'll get better as it goes on. New York Jets, as I said, lost 14 straight to the Pats. They come in off an ugly 30-10 loss at Dallas. Their offense under Zach Wilson was only able to put up 215 yards of offense. They were 1 of 10 on third down, 0 of 1 in the red zone. They couldn't sustain drives to keep the Cowboys off the field. The Cowboys won the time of possession battle 42-15 to 17-45. The Cowboys ran 83 plays compared to the Jets, who ran just 46. Zach Wilson looked atrocious. 12-27, 170 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. He also ran 5 times for 36 yards. That led all Jets players. The rest of the squad ran 11 times for 28 yards. Man, it's horrible. Garrett Wilson led receivers with 2 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. Todd Conklin was the only receiver to catch more than 2 balls. He caught 5 for 50 yards. The Jets defense couldn't get through that tough Cowboy offensive line. 1 sack, 4 quarterback hits. They couldn't stop the Cowboys, who got whatever they pleased, until they reached the red zone. And then it felt like they took their foot off the gas pedal. They were just 2 of 6 in the red zone, the Cowboys. But the Cowboys put up 382 total yards, went 9 of 18 on third down. I always hesitate mightily to be on short road favorites. It's obviously they're appealing, and we know that the books make a ton of money off of the public backing short road favorites, but I get it here, and I don't expect Zach Wilson to step up. So take it away for us, Troy. I can't wait to hear your breakdown on this. Patriots, Jets.
So this is actually the only game I moved on so far, and that's the Patriots. But let me talk about the Jets real quick, because I'm very confused at what I've seen from the Jets this week. You look at their offensive line, and trust me, the coaches got to know this. Their pass block is one of the worst in the NFL. But the run block is one of the best in the NFL. So what do you think? It's the tale of 2 stories. So what do they decide to do on offense? They only have 16 rush attempts in the entire game. And I know they didn't have the ball for very long in this game, so that definitely changes things. But this game, to me, is going to come down to a game of field position. It's just going to be a game of field position. Whoever could win that is going to squeak out ahead. And if you're giving me 2.5 points versus Zach Wilson-led New York Jets team, in a must-win spot, I think I'm going to have, I got to be on the Patriots in this spot. Sure, the offense for the Patriots is lackluster. Their pass blocking, their run blocking is one of the worst offensive lines player graded through NFL Week 2. But who have they played? Played the Dolphins and they played the Eagles. I mean, those are 2 strong opponents. So despite some of these bad metrics that we're seeing out of this unit, this is going to be a much different game in terms of who they're playing on the offensive side of the ball. And like I said, if it's going to come down to field position, who's going to be able to win the field, it's going to be the Patriots, in my opinion. So I did already move on the Patriots. I expect them to win this game by at least 3 points.
I agree. I really don't want any short road favorites ever. But I completely agree with the take. DX Filer says he's been a Pats fan since 1996. This is their 2nd worst team in the Bill Belichick coaching era. They threw everything, including the kitchen sink, first 2 home games, still came up short. It's not going to get better. And he says that worst Pats team in the Belichick era was last year. Brady says no real take, but he's already bet the under. I would love to fade Zach Wilson here. And maybe it just makes sense to do it, and just let go of my feeling of not wanting to back this road favorite. I think this move from 2.5 to 3 should instill some confidence, but the fact that it moved to plus 105, that's sitting at plus 105, that you can still get that 2.5, for a pretty cheap price, makes me nervous. The whole thing makes me nervous, man. And I plan on having, less action easily, than I had last week. But this whole thing makes me nervous. But we have a move here. What did you get the Pats at, Troy?
Minus 115, minus 2.5.
Troy on the Pats, minus 2.5, minus 115.
And trust me, so I feel like, from a defensive standpoint, they're right now, they're ranked 14th overall per PFF. I think that's around where they should be. But if you adjust that for DVOA, I think it'll be a lot higher. Obviously, the offense is a problem. You know, they don't have a vertical threat. They don't really do anything in the screen game or the extended running game. Their wide receivers are below league average. But like I said, it's just going to come down to who's going to be able to get more first downs in this game. I really think it's going to come down to just that. And I think the Patriots will be able to do that.
Whew, that's a fun one. I'm going to need more time on it, but Troy has moved on the Patriots. Let's move on. 1 p.m. Eastern, Buffalo Bills, 1-1, 0-1 on the road at the Washington Commanders, 2-0, 1-0 at home. We're at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland, 68 Fahrenheit. Showers at this point. Showers. We got to keep an eye on it. 12 miles per hour is the wind. And this spread is sitting at 6.5 for these Buffalo Bills. Opened up at 6, moved to 6.5, half-point move towards these Bills. And from a total perspective here, we have it sitting at 45. There's 44s at other books, 44 minus 110 at BetChris and Bookmaker. We know that's a trusted company there. This has gone from 46 to 45. That 45 is minus 119, so it's really a 44.5 here. The Buffalo Bills come in off a dominant 38-10 victory at home over the Raiders. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are in the exact same position this week that the Bills were in last week. And I look forward to getting to that game. I've not bet anything before the show started. I prefer to do that so I can talk it out and have confidence. The Bills improved to 13-4 in games following a loss since 2019. Allen was 31 of 37 for 274 yards and 3 touchdowns. Gabe Davis caught 6 for 92 and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs caught 7 for 66. James Cook was a monster. 17 carries, 123 yards. That's the most by a Bills running back since Shady McCoy had 156 in December 2017. He also caught 4 passes for 36 yards, and that allowed the Bills to dominate time of possession. 40 minutes and 4 seconds they had the ball compared to 19:56 for the Raiders. They entered the red zone 7 times. So they had 9 drives. 9 drives, and 7 of them end up in the red zone. 5 of them end up in the end zone. They didn't get much pressure on Jimmy G, but they didn't need to. And no sacks, 2 quarterback hits, but they held the Raiders to just 13 first downs and 240 total yards. They completely shut down the run game. Last year's NFL rush leader, Josh Jacobs, they held him to a career worst -2 yards on 9 carries. -2 on 9 carries. That's the first time since the NFL's merger that the league's defending rushing champion finished with negative yardage. Raiders were 1-2 in the red zone. Matt Milano had the second interception in as many games. Terrell Bernard also had one. Damar Hamlin, healthy and active for the second straight week. You know, everybody curious as to what's going on there. Wanted to see him on the field. Micah Hyde injured his hamstring. Leonard Floyd hurt his ankle. McDermott today said that both players are day-to-day. So that gives hope that they could be available here on Sunday. The Bills haven't had any players miss a game this season due to injuries. They've been very healthy. So if Floyd's forced to miss the game, you know, Shaq Lawson will play a bigger role. And if Hyde's ruled out, Taylor Rapp will play a bigger role. You know, this is a deep, healthy team right now, but we know it's a real aging group, especially on defense, and things can change in a hurry. Commanders are off to their first 2-0 start since 2011. Sam Howell looked very good, 27 of 39 for 299 yards, 2 touchdowns. 10 different Commanders caught passes. Scary Terry caught 5 for 54 and a touchdown. Brian Robertson Jr., 18 carries for 87 yards, 2 touchdowns, caught 2 for 42. Held on to the ball for 33-45. They look good. You know, after allowing those first 3 touchdowns, their defense strengthened. I mean, they outscored the Bills at that point, 33-3? Oh, sorry, the Bills, the Broncos 33-3. They held the Broncos to 2 of 4 in the red zone, 7 sacks, 14 quarterback hits. Chase Young made his awaited return. He had a sack and a half. Manuel Forbes had a pick. And then Logan Thomas is in concussion protocol. He took the hit from Kareem Jackson. Jacoby Myers also remains in concussion protocol from the hit he took from Jackson week 1. That also warranted an ejection. So there's a thought that maybe he gets suspended here. But Logan Thomas in concussion protocol, we're not sure if he'll be available. Take it away for us here, Troy. Bills, Commanders.
So with this game, I find it very interesting because, the Commanders, I mean, they force offenses into dangerous situations constantly with the pressure they apply. They force 7 sacks, 8 poor throws from Russell Wilson. And they forced Joshua Dobbs to check down pretty much every play. I mean, I think he completed 21 passes for like 120 yards or something along those lines against the Commanders. And we know what Josh Allen's MO is that when you put him in those situations, those stressful situations, he doesn't tend to make the right decision. So I'm very concerned with the Bills on the offensive side and Josh Allen. I mean, this is going to be a real test for him. Is he going to take a leap of faith and fucking to let his personality get the best of him, like I talked about before, and take all these risks downfield to try to be something you can't be when the defense, you got to take what the defense gives you. And he just doesn't do that on a consistent basis. And I think the Commanders might be able to capitalize on that in this spot. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about this game. But, the more and more I looked at the Commanders and wanted the Commanders, I mean, how could you get behind not only Sam Howell? I think he may not be very good, but I feel like he protects the ball. He won't throw a pick, but he'll take 10 sacks. I think he leads the league in sacks taken so far. So, take that for what it is. I mean, the problem is when you start looking at the Bills and you're looking at the spread, when the Bills win, they don't win by 3-4 points. They win by margin. They blow teams out. You start putting some of this stuff in the database and you start, running some queries on Killer Sports. I'm seeing a 4-1 spot for the Bills and a 4-6 spot for the Washington Commanders. So, last week I went against my trends in some of these spots, and this is just a tough game for me because I really think the Commanders could create some havoc and force Josh Allen into his old self, right? Who is he? I think he showed us who he is. He's shown us who he is over the years. And that's a guy that's going to take some chances, probably turn the ball over multiple times potentially. And if that's the case, Commanders at home getting almost a touchdown looks like a bargain.
Is it the weather that's dropping this total?
I haven't looked much at the weather or a lot of totals yet, man. Still a lot of work to do.
Sky Dragon said in the past 5 years, Washington falls down 21-3, they're done. That was wildly impressive from Howell figuring it out. This is the total that just made no sense to me. Yes, I mean, it's supposed to be showers, but it just made no sense to me. I feel like there's going to be points. Let's just take one look at AccuWeather right now here. I know this is a Tuesday, but it just makes no sense. So right now it has showers, but it's just a chance of showers like halfway through the game. So if we go to AccuWeather only give us the next 3 days. So, I mean, it's very possible that there's no rain in this spot. So I don't, these two teams at this point, what we've seen from Washington, they come together. There's going to be more than 24 or 44 points scored.
And to me, it just looks like a spot where you'd want to fade the Commanders as well, coming off that huge, massive comeback on the road. They're 2-0, fat and happy. Fuck, this is a tough game. It really is. And I'm kind of pissed at myself because I wanted the Bills. We talked about the Bills. I know you got on the team total. I was really heavily leaning towards the spread. Didn't get there. And, I regret that.
Oh, I wish that was a triple up spot here. Sky Dragon on Washington plus 6.5 for the over 44.5 says, not that I love it, but he bet it. And here, I mean, look at, like, if we just go to the Washington team total, now it's 20.5. The over's at plus 126. So that's not a good example. And they're not giving you an alternate line, but basically it's 19.5. Brady says Washington has Philly next week, don't they? Bad scheduling spot for Washington. Just too many factors to get enrolled here, in his opinion. This is another total that makes no sense to me. And then I'm nervous about going up against these market moves, and it just doesn't make sense. As I tracked my action over the years, going up against these totals I had a negative ROI. So, but this one, I completely want to. This was the one that made no sense to me at all. I was shocked that this wasn't a 46.5 or a 47. It just felt like a 47 to me. All right. So nothing at this point, but I'm certainly looking at the over. This is a spreadsheet spot on Washington, says Ron Crawford. I mean, why wouldn't the Washington Commanders be able to keep this within 6.5? Especially, I mean, this is the Bills feeling good about themselves. They dominate the Raiders. Now they go out on the road, and the Commanders' offense believes in themselves.
And the Bills' defense is not looking as strong as it has been in the past. They look susceptible to the run. Their pass rushes per PFF is ranked 24th, coverage 19th.
80% of the tickets, 90% of the cash on the Buffalo Bills. And that is a spot that you fade. That is a spot that you fade. 71% of tickets, 87% of cash on the over, and it's dropping. I mean, that makes me not want to bet the over, but God, it just feels like the Commanders can keep this within 6.5. It really
If this
does.
number drops to 6, I will probably be on the Commanders money line. This is a data that goes back to the database plays that I made in week 1 with the Bucks and the Vikings. If this falls to 6, I'm going to grab the money line. If it's close, and this is going to be up against Sunday, right? I mean, I'm going to wait down. I'm going to let this market develop, right? Because I'm not trying to beat the line. I'm trying to bet a trend that says if a total opens where it did and closes below at 6 or below 6 to take the dog on the money line. So that's what I'm going to be looking to do.
I'm right with you. I think I bet this tonight, though. I think I bet this tonight. I did not expect to be on it. And if you look at the 6.5s, with the Broncos and with the Commanders, I mean, this is so much more appealing. So much more appealing. I mean, there's no that makes me. This makes me want to put a line through that many Broncos interest compared to this spot here. Al Cervix saying the stadium will be loud now. New home, new owner, new energy. I think there's truth to all of that. And then Bieniemy. I mean, okay.
Wait.
I'm okay. I think this is a possible move this evening. All right, let's roll on. Next up for us, we have 1 p.m. Eastern. Houston Texans 0-2, 0-1 on the road. The Jacksonville Jaguars 1-1, 0-1 at home at Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville, Florida. 83 Fahrenheit, mostly sunny, 8 miles per hour. Let's move over to the line history here for this one. We have let's move over here. Wow, we're at 10 now. Now, this 10 is not a real 10, but because Jacksonville's at plus 108. Houston at plus 10 has gone from minus 110 to minus 122. This was at minus 129. This had moved 19 cents in the Texans' direction. With that being said, I would be interested to see what Bet Chris has done with this as well. When did they put this line out? They put this line out on Sunday at 6:53. They opened it at 9 and 9.5, 9. This went down to 8.5 at BetCrest today, and it's back up at 9.5. So it's going to point in the Jacksonville Jaguars direction. Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Okay, let's move over to the total here in this one. We are sitting at a 43.5. This opened up at 45.5, and it's dropped 2 points to 43.5. Let's take a look at the cash flow then for this spot. On the total, you have 59% of the tickets and 57% of cash on the over, yet it's moving towards the under. And on the spread, you have 37% of the tickets, but 47% of cash on the Texans. Ron Crawford says 17-3 spreadsheet spot for Jacksonville. All right. Jarek White looking at Jacksonville minus 4.5 first half. So the Texans coming off a 31-20 loss at home to the Colts. CJ Stroud had a monster effort in the loss. Pretty impressive. Finished 30-47 for 384 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now he did fumble twice, and he lost one of them. Nico Collins caught 7 passes for 146 yards and a touchdown. Robert Woods caught 6 for 74. And Tank Dell caught 7 for 72 and a touchdown out of Houston. Unfortunately, the Texans got nothing out of their running game at all. So 52 yards off of 26 carries. And even with that, they still went 9 of 19 on third down. They still outgained the Colts 389 to 353, but they were just 1 of 4 in the red zone. The offensive line was horrific. I mean, it was as bad as any offensive line this year. Stroud was sacked 6 times. He was hit 9 other times. It's all backups. They lost 4 starters to the line during camp, and then Laramie Tunsil out on Sunday because of a knee injury. He's day-to-day right now, so he's not being ruled out or anything. But D'Amico Ryan's defense was useless. Must just be driving him crazy. The Colts were a perfect 4-4 in the red zone. They finished with no sacks and no tackles for a loss. Will Anderson Jr. got the only quarterback hit. Eric Murray, their safeties in concussion protocol. We'll have to wait on that. Jacksonville comes in off a tough 17-9 loss at home to the defending champion Chiefs. Trevor Lawrence, 22 of 41 for 216 yards, no touchdowns. He also ran 5 times for 26 yards, fumbled twice, losing one of them. Christian Kirk caught 11 passes for 110 yards. Nevin Ingram caught 6 for 57. Etienne ran 12 times for 40 yards. The offense had a tough day. And it was because they weren't moving the ball on the ground. Every team that we talk about that was incapable of moving the ball on the ground lost badly. They couldn't move the ball on the ground. They had 1 first down on the ground all game long. They were just 3 of 14 on third or fourth down. They were 0 of 3 in the red zone. In the red zone, 3 trips to the red zone, Trevor Lawrence was 0 for 7 through the air. 0 for 7. The offensive line had a difficult time handling Chris Jones. And unfortunately, it was Anton Harrison, the rookie's responsibility for a lot of that game. Jones finished with a sack and a half and 5 quarterback pressures. We talked about the Jaguars' weak offensive line often, but the defense played the Chiefs tough. They held them to 4 of 13 on third down, 2 of 4 in the red zone. They finished 1 sack, 4 quarterback hits. Andre Cisco had an interception. This game does not appeal to me in any which way, but I don't see why there wouldn't be points in this one. And watching this total, drop to 43.5 is another one of the totals that surprised me. I did not expect it to drop. The Texans just look so weak defensively, and the Jaguars need that breakout, confidence building offensive victory. Take it away for us here, Troy. Texans, Jags.
Me, kind of where I'm sitting at with the Jags. I've been talking about shorting the Jags, and I'm probably going to continue looking for spots to short the Jaguars, but I don't know that this is the spot to do so. I think that if I knew that this Texans team was going to be healthy 100%, I would be taking the points, but there's a reason this line is bouncing around, and now it's heading back towards 10. I think it's likely going to close around where it is right now. I'm not in the same boat as a lot of people who are high on this Jags team. The pass block, the blocking's awful. Let's start with that. 23rd and 31st in pass block and run block. They allowed a 41% pressure rate, and ETN in the backfield, man. This guy's not a disciplined back. He's the exact opposite of patient. Like the patient specimen that Chubb is, ETN is not. If he was more patient, he would be a much more effective running back, but he's just not that guy. And he continues to show that. And I love the guy. I think he has a bunch of talent. I just don't think he's a good back at this point. Lawrence with a 17 QBR last week. I think the word is out on Trevor Lawrence and this Jags team. How do you beat them? How do you handle that offense? You blitz Trevor Lawrence. He was blitzed 18 times last week. He had 10 poor passes, which was the worst in the NFL. Only averaged 4.3 yards per attempt. And I think a lot of these metrics are a reflection of the offensive line more than it is Trevor Lawrence, because I was preaching, I had high praises for this guy last year. But after watching this offense for 2 years now, it's the same story, man. Even if you go back to last year, he was inefficient when he was blitzed. On defense, these guys are playmakers on defense. The Jaguars team on defense just comes down to making plays, and they only get, the pass rush is ranked 28th right now, only getting pressure on 13% of opponent team passes. And the Texans, who talked about CJ Stroud having a much better game, which was great to see. But the Colts, after they got the lead, you could see that they pulled off the reins on the defensive side, played a little bit of a shell defense. Now you still got to be able to make the throws and handle the pressure that he was getting, and he was able to make those throws. So maybe that is a little bit of a confidence builder for the Texans. But I'm with you, Jimmy. I'm not willing to bet this game.
When it comes down to it, after talking it out and listening to the chat and listening to you and sitting with all the information, a free bet, I take the Texans here. And I think both of a lot of these cappers in the chat are saying real legit things. Saturated says hard to lay a 9 here with the Jags. Sky Dragon says I still don't trust Jacksonville to lay big numbers, so he's on Houston. He said, but Sky Dragon also likes the under. Says he has questions about Jacksonville offense, which I get. It's just that Stroud's wild. He's making plays happen. He's pushing the ball deep down the field. He's got wide receivers that are exciting and they're creating connection with. And if they score, then the Jags will be forced to score. Birdie says Jags heading to London for 2 weeks as well. Heads will be elsewhere. 10 is a lot of points facing a 2-week Euro trip. Big number versus a bad team facing a 10-hour flight and organizing 2 weeks in England. That's all completely legit. So, yeah, I did not want the Texans. That's sort of the only way I could look right now. I'm going to be very interested in, what happens with the cash and what happens with the line on this. I'm certainly not moving on the Texans tonight. I'm surprised that people don't think that Stroud and Trevor Lawrence can put some points up in this game. I am. But I'm not going to go up against this market move to the under. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to be off of that over regardless here. So, all right, let's move on. We'll roll on. Next up for us, 1 p.m. Eastern, Indianapolis Colts 1-1, 1-0 on the road at the Baltimore Ravens, 2-0, 1-0 at home at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland, 74 Fahrenheit. Showers right now in the forecast. We got to keep an eye on that. 11 miles per hour. Shane Steichen coming off his first win as an NFL coach. And it was well-deserved. The Colts look good in that one. And we'll talk about it here. But let's start with the line history. First off, on the spread, we are sitting here with Baltimore as 7.5-point favorites. This opened at 8.5. So we've had a point move towards the Indianapolis Colts. And I like it. I like that move. I get it. When we go over to the total here, we're sitting at a 45. This opened up at 44. It jumped up to 45 at 3:54 p.m. today. So it's gone up a point. We get to the cash flow here. Sorry, let me find it. We have 44% of the tickets and 55% of the cash on the Indianapolis Colts. And the market has moved in their direction. And when we take a look at the total here for this one, we have 42% of tickets on the over and 70% of cash on that over. So Steichen gets his first win despite losing fourth overall pick Anthony Richards to a concussion early in the second quarter. The win snapped an 8-game losing streak dating back to last year. Richardson was 6 of 10 for 56 yards and ran 3 times for 35 yards and 2 touchdowns before he left. Gardner Minshew picked up right where Richardson left off. Gardner Minshew looked good, 19 of 23 for 171 yards and a touchdown. Gardner Minshew is a hard dude not to cheer for. Michael Pittman led receivers with 8 catches for 56 yards. Zach Moss returned from an injury, ran 18 times for 88 yards and a touchdown. I was very thankful we talked this out on NFL Pub Hub and I moved on the Colts. It just seemed like a blatantly obvious bet as soon as I had said I was just afraid to bet the Colts because of this bias of them losing and losing and losing. But we talked about we thought if Petrie and Jimmy Ward aren't in the Texans backfield and Zach Moss is back, then we're going to move on the Colts. And I don't know why I was afraid to do that. And the Petrie and Jimmy Ward issues for the Texans are, certainly things that I should have talked about in that breakdown, and whether Trevor Lawrence will be able to attack that like Minshew did so easily. They were a perfect 4-4 in the red zone. The defense looked very strong against a makeshift Texans offensive line. They got 6 sacks and 9 quarterback hits. They held the Texans to just 52 total yards on the ground. They held them just 1-4 in the red zone. And Ryan Kelly, their center, is in concussion protocol. Now that's a problem. The Ravens coming off a 27-24 victory in Cincinnati. They outgained the Bengals 415 to 282, went 9 of 14 on third down. Lamar Jackson 24-33 for 237 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran 12 times for 54 yards. Nelson Aguilar caught 5 for 63 and a touchdown. Zay Flowers caught 4 for 62, and Mark Andrews made his season debut. 5 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown. Odell Beckham left the game with an ankle injury and did not return. It's a sprained ankle. It seems to be minor. It's not expected to miss his impact his availability. If he is going to miss time, then Rashad Bateman will get more run. And, he's coming off the Live Frank injury and, expecting to ramp it up at some point. Gus Edwards ran 10 times for 62 yards and a touchdown. Despite losing J.K. Dobbins for the season, the Ravens' MO stayed the same. They ran 37 times for 178 yards. The defense bent but didn't break. They allowed the Bengals to go 10 of 15 on third down. But they held the Bengals to just 66 yards rushing, and they didn't get a ton of pressure on Burrow. 1 sack, 5 quarterback hits, but they held the Bengals to 2 of 4 in the red zone, and Geno Stone had an interception. That was a huge game-changing interception. Burrow's still beating himself up over. So now that we've talked this all out, I didn't realize this then, but I like the Colts now. I didn't. This has come as a surprise to me. Take it away for us, Troy. Colts, Ravens.
I'm right there with you. I think the Ravens' 2-0 record is somewhat misleading. Very unimpressive wins, in my opinion, when you look at their opponents. Bengals ranked 30th right now per PFF, and the Texans are 29th. Their offense looked much better. I think there might be something in week 2 than they did in week 1. I think there might be something, too, that they didn't want to put too much on film as it relates to their offense in week 1 against the Texans, thinking they can get by just bare bones. So I think there's something to be at least considered from that standpoint, thinking that, they wanted to hold some stuff back, not put a lot on film, or they just changed their game plan from what they did because of a couple injuries to J.K. Dobbins and some of their offensive linemen. But this offense is getting high praise on Pro Football Focus. But I thought Lamar Jackson looked a lot better. Was kind of impressive against the Bengals. He made some accurate throws, had some good decisions. On defense, I think some of these numbers are misleading, so I won't even go through them. But they are below average in terms of getting pressure on the opposing team quarterback. And I'm with you on those Colts. I remember texting with you earlier in the week, Jimmy, last week, and you were talking about the Colts. Like, you were suggesting we take the Colts. And this was maybe 2 days after our live show. And they were on my mind all week. Never got there. Watched NFL Pub Hub. Even leaned harder. Never got there. And I feel like I missed my opportunity a little bit. This offense, I think I give them a little bit of a boost with Gardner Minshew in a one-game sample. Just one game, right? Not talking about future expectations. I think I would want Gardner Minshew as my quarterback to make the right decision. Zach Moss was a huge boost at running back. Deion Jackson had to be the worst running back in the league through 1 week. This run blocking, let me see this. This has to be wrong. This might be a typo on my sheet. The Colts are tied for the first overall in run block efficiency in the NFL, which, it just blows my mind. And what do they do on defense? Their run defense is ranked first overall. Now, this is versus the Jags and the Texans, who we know are having issues, especially the Jags having a lot of issues running the football. Their pass rush, 9th overall, but their coverage still, despite their, how good they've done on defense, is 29th overall. And preseason, they were ranked this low as well. So it's kind of what we expected. But I think that 8 points is too much. I'm with you, Jimmy. I wanted the Colts. I haven't moved. I wanted to come on here and talk this out. I haven't looked at the chat because I've been firing around 1,000 different tabs. What is the chat leaning?
There's love for Baltimore. Here, I'll break it down a few of the guys here. Saturated, or let's go with Al Cervic. Al Cervic says, Baltimore is my team. I was very skeptical. I believe they're improving in the new offense. Terry Walker on the Ravens. Sky Dragon says, Baltimore is my favorite teaser leg, but he hasn't found anything to pair it with. And then Birdie says, horrible scheduling spot here for the Ravens. Shitty team sandwiched between Bengals and Browns. Says, love the Colts here and these points. So Cheshire on the Ravens first half. It says for Ravens first half at home is money. Sky Dragon liking the under. I'm surprised that's gone from 44 to 45. And Birdie says if Taylor gets back in this Colts roster, bet them for the division of SAP. I got there over 6.5 wins. I'm expecting to cash that comfortably, honestly. I think Steichen is a very good coach. Now, I mean, he's going to make some, errors. As he's never had this much responsibility. But I really like him. Ron Crawford says a spreadsheet spot is on the Ravens. Dabby Cabin House, great to see you. Look, I'm going to move on to Colts tonight. I expect that this will be a 7 or a 7.5 at best, and I'd like to get the 8. I'm going to keep an eye out on this under. At this point, I'm just going to write that DG loving the under. I'm going to see if it keeps rising, and I like what the Colts are doing. I like what the Colts are doing. So
I'm right there with you. I think they're undervalued still. And I don't know if that's how much longer we're going to get these prices on these guys. I'm with you. I got the Colts on. They're going to be on my card.
Yeah, I'm going to bet the Colts this evening. Spenny Pennybomb says he likes the over. He said Minshew will air the ball out and I think he's capable of putting up points, but he also give the Raiders good field position with turnovers. We're still unclear exactly how bad the concussion protocol that Anthony Richardson is going through. It's still unclear. Yes, Cheshire, it'd be a full game for sure. Bet full for sure. All right, that's the 1:00 action. Let's move on to 4:05 p.m. Eastern. Carolina Panthers at Seattle Seahawks, Lumen Field in Seattle, Washington. 61 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 5 miles per hour. What a Jekyll and Hyde Seahawk squad through the first 2 games of the season. Let's go right to the line history here for this one. This is sitting now at 6 at Pinnacle, but that's where it opened. You'll see 5.5s at other books here, but 6 is what it opened at Penny, and it hasn't moved. Now, the Panthers have taken 12 cents of movement. The line's still at 6, but they've gone from minus 102 to minus 114 at that plus 6 spot. Let's go over to the total next up for this Panthers Seahawks spot. We have it sitting at 41. This opened up at 42.5. So that's a big 1.5 drop. That drop happened at 5:13 p.m. today. So a big 1.5 drop towards the under. Then let's take a look at the cash flow for this spot. 81% of the tickets, 92% of the cash on the Seattle Seahawks. Then we have 58% tickets and 94% of cash on this under. Panthers, Seahawks, 61 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 5 miles per hour. Panthers coming off a tough 2017 loss at home to New Orleans. Panthers lost defensive captain Shaq Thompson in the first quarter to a fractured fibula. He's already had surgery on it, but he is expected to miss the rest of the season. The tough Saints defense was hard on Bryce Young in his home debut, held him to just 22 of 33 for 153 yards and 1 touchdown. He also ran twice for 34 yards. Adam Thielen led receivers with 7 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. Miles Sanders ran 14 times for 43 yards. Panthers finished with just 239 total yards. They were 4 of 14 on third down and 1 of 3 in the red zone. It was Frankie Louvu who led the defense, 9 tackles, 3 for a loss, 2 sacks. He stepped up in a big, big way after Shaq went down. The team finished with 4 sacks and 6 quarterback hits. Von Bell had 6 tackles and a pick. Seahawks coming off an enormous 37-31 overtime victory at Detroit. The offense was excellent. 393 total yards, didn't turn the ball over, 5 of 11 on third down, 4 of 5 in the red zone. The makeshift offense stepped up and was excellent. I've got to figure out this a little deeper. Is that the fact that Forsyth and Curran are good offensive linemen, backups are good, or is that the weakness of the Lions pass rush? Geno Smith went 32 of 41 for 328 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran 3 times for 20 yards. DK Metcalf dealing with a rib injury, manned out, 6 catches for 75 yards. Tyler Lockett, 8 for 59, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. Kenneth Walker ran 17 times for 43 yards, 2 touchdowns, also caught an 11-yard pass. Defensively, the Seahawks again allowed 30-plus points, but they got timely turnovers. Lions put up 418 yards and were 2 of 2 in the red zone. Now Jamal Adams would help, so we're still waiting for Jamal Adams to return from that torn quad tendon he suffered in that first game of the year last season against the Broncos. Pete Carroll says Jamal Adams will have a full week of practice. And quote unquote, right from his mouth, says whether or not he plays, that's a different story. We're not talking about that yet. We just want to get him a week of practice and see how he does. So that's not I don't know if I'd have a ton of confidence in him being in the lineup. The Seahawks registered 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. Their center Evan Brown with a knee injury and cornerback Reek Woolen with a chest injury were injured during the game. And Carroll has yet to update us on that. But, they had 2 linebackers missing and they are important. Boye Mafe was out, and so was Devin Bush. They were both inactive, and they're both really important. I mean, if you have Boye Mafe, Devin Bush, Reek Woolen, and Jamal Adams in, then the defense is much, much, much improved. But we see 12 cents of juice heading towards the Panthers at this price, and I get it. I get it, but I don't know what the hell we're going to get from the Seahawks. And we also know that this home field advantage is no longer, and it hasn't been an issue for 5 years. They don't cover at home. They're what is it 17-24-1 since they lost that first week against the Rams, 17-24-1. Then that's not including the year where there were no fans. Take it away, Troy. Floor is yours. Lumen Field, Seattle, Washington.
So I'm kind of confused looking at some of the Seahawks metrics, but I did find something interesting when digging in a little bit. Oh, and that's that Geno Smith is extremely efficient versus the blitz. Extremely efficient. When the Lions blitzed, he put up a QBR of, and I don't have it here, but it was the highest QBR in the NFL in week 2. The Lions blitzed him 16 times. The Rams only blitzed him 5 times. So I don't know why you don't kind of copy and paste something you see on film is working. Instead, they choose to blitz, and maybe that's because they couldn't get any pressure on him. So they were like, fuck it, let's send a couple more and see if we can get him disturbed. But maybe they didn't do their homework. I'm not sure. On the defensive side for the Seahawks, they are not to be trusted. I think that they're going to get exposed by good teams. So the worst team in the NFL in the red zone, allowing a perfect 5 for 5, 5 times in the red zone, 5 touchdowns. And when it comes to the Panthers, I mean, there's just not much to like when looking at it. They're very underwhelming. But this is a one-way ticket for me. It's Panthers or it's nothing. There's no way I'm backing the Seahawks.
I agree. I don't think I can do it though. I just I've not seen anything from the Panthers that makes me want to back them. But that was a real tough defense they went up against in New Orleans. But I just haven't. I guess what bothered me was Miles Sanders, doing nothing when he's got to be such a weapon. Now, Adam Thielen will become a security blanket, I imagine, for Bryce Young, and he led the receivers last out. But Sky Dragon says he bet Carolina plus 4.5, and he'll rebet Carolina again. He says he insists on losing all his money on Carolina. Birdie says best stat for Panthers 2-0 against the spread, and Birdie says, I'm with Spencer. Spenny Pennybomb says, too many points here. Fade the Seahawks as favorites. Bet them as dogs. Pete gives two shits covering numbers. Says, great look to Spenny. Spenny's been on Carolina, and they got him home with that 2-point conversion. All right. So, and Skydragon saying, no, Birdie, Atlanta covered week 1. This is, of course, yeah, because that was 24-10. I'm interested in what you guys are doing here with Carolina. I've got to sit with it for longer. I don't think that I can. I don't have the confidence to bet it tonight. Personally, are you going to move on this tonight, Troy?
No, this is one I will not move on tonight. So don't mark me down for anything. I don't even think I'd put a lean on the Panthers, but yeah, I'm not looking to back the Panthers at this point. I think there's better spots to attack.
Of the sides that I want to bet, right now, this isn't too far away from being in that wheelhouse. Looking at what my plan is. I like that 6.5 for the Commanders a lot, and I like the 7.5 with the Colts. And then what Carolina's sitting here at 6, I'm very interested in where this line goes, but I do find it appealing. And then I like the Chargers at this point. I'm going to stay off the Broncos, and then the Patriots is starting to make me nervous. So, but I'm very interested in your guys' look on Carolina, and I'm going to sit with it for a little longer. Let's move on. Next up for us, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, Chicago Bears 0-2, 0-1 on the road at the Kansas City Chiefs, 1-1, 0-1 at home. We're at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. 72 Fahrenheit, scattered thunderstorms, 10 miles per hour. I already talked about comparing this spot to the Chiefs, who are frustrated offensively. I compared it to what the Bills did last week, and I stand by it. Now, we're sitting here with the Chiefs going from 13 to 13.5. I mean, that doesn't appeal to me at all. Not whatsoever. Not a first half look, nothing. But I think that this is a chance for their offense to get rolling. Now, this is also a spot where this total sitting here at 48 dropped all the way down to 47 from 50. And I like having the Chiefs with unders, with high totals. I like it a lot. They slow everything down when they're way ahead, and they just, they want to get the job done, get out healthy. Ron Crawford says he doesn't like travel after Monday night games. Again, that's talking about the Panther spot. Spanny Pennybomb says so many points, but the Bears are just so bad. And for me here, I think this is a get right spot for the offense, and that would only be a first half type of situation for the Chiefs, because I think if they're way ahead, they'll slow it down. So we've seen that this line's gone to 13.5 and the total's gone to 47. Let's take a look at the cash flow then for this spot. We have 94% of the tickets in. Oh, sorry, that's money line. Who's betting minus 700? Jeez. 68% of the tickets and 96% of cash is on the under, and we've seen a big market move towards the under. Then we have 63% of the tickets and 35% of cash on the Chiefs. So there's people backing the Bears at this price, even though it's moving in the Chiefs' direction. The market certainly makes me not want to move on my plan for team totals. So But the Bears come in off an ugly 27-17 loss at Tampa. They were outgained 437 to 236. They only made one appearance in the red zone. Justin Fields was 16 and 29 for 211 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and the Bucs did a great job of keeping Fields in the pocket. He ran 4 times for 3 yards. DJ Moore had a nice bounce-back game, catching 6 passes for 104 yards. But Darnell Mooney left in the third quarter, and we'll go over why. But that hurt, and it helped DJ Moore a bit, becoming pretty much the only option. Bears' running game was not a factor. They ran 16 times for 67 yards, and that hurt their time of possession. They only had the ball for 24 minutes and 4 seconds. The offensive line couldn't protect Fields. He was sacked 6 times. The defense could apply no pressure whatsoever. They finished with no sacks and 1 quarterback hit. They allowed a Baker Mayfield offense to put up 437 total yards. We talked about the loss of Kyler Gordon last week in the secondary. I mean, it was glaring. But then Jaquan Brisker is sick before the game. I mean, that's just heartbreak if anybody believed in the Bears. I mean, that's just awful. And then Eddie Jackson, they lose in the first quarter. Now, Jaquan Brisker did start the game, but illness was out. And then Eddie Jackson, they lose in the first quarter. Jackson suffered a foot injury and he did not return. Now, Eberflus says that it looks positive, whatever that means. So Darnell Mooney has a nagging bruise on his kneecap. He suffered it against the Packers. He couldn't bend his knee, so he was held out. He believes he'll be fine for this week's game, but you'll have to wait and see. The Chiefs come in off that underwhelming 17-9 victory in Jacksonville. They outgained the Jags 399 to 271, but didn't look good doing it. Mahomes finished 29 to 41 for 305 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Sky Moore caught 3 for 70 and a touchdown. Justin Watson caught 3 for 62. Travis Kelce back in the lineup caught 4 passes for 26 yards and a touchdown. Pacheco ran 12 times for 70 yards. Justin Watson, Richie James lost fumbles. Kadarius Toney almost lost another one, but he recovered it. The defense looked strong, though. They held the Jags to 1 first down on the ground. Jags just went only 3 of 14 on 3rd and 4th down. Chris Jones had his way with this weak offensive line from the Jags, 1.5 sacks, 5 quarterback pressures. As a team, they finished with 4 sacks and 7 quarterback hits, and they completely shut down Trevor Lawrence when it mattered most. Trevor Lawrence was just 0 of 7 through the air, and his team went 0 of 3 in the red zone. The Chiefs were just sloppy. I mean, it was just a sloppy, ugly game. 12 penalties for 94 yards, and Jawan Taylor looked horrible. I mean, he was penalized 5 times, and then they benched him.
He was jumping off sides in week 1 as well. I mean, not off sides. He was false start like every play, and they let him get away with it until the 4th quarter in week 1 as well. But
it was horrific. So 2 false starts, 1 illegal formation, and 2 holding. And that was just ridiculous. So I'm going to pull up the Chiefs team total just so we can have an idea of how ridiculous it is right now, because look, I don't want to sit with a 14-point favorite, but it's not that I don't think they'll cover it. That's just not good business. But here you have it says 31.5, but that's plus 124 to the over. I mean, you can get a better number than that. And the first half is 16.5. I mean, is this not a get right spot for the offense? Why don't they score 17 points in the first half? Why don't they? Take it away for us here, Troy. Bears, Chiefs.
This Chiefs team, I'm just confused at what I'm seeing right now because it's unlike the Chiefs. I mean, they look like a freaking skeleton of themselves. All the fluidity the Chiefs used to have on offense is just not there. The plays offensively, obviously, they're creating a bunch of penalties and putting themselves behind the marker. Constant strings of penalties versus the Jags. It was so frustrating to watch. I said that the Chiefs are due for a bear market, and it's right now it's looking like it's here. Right now, PFF has them ranked 24th overall, 20th on offense, and 26th on defense, despite allowing an average of 15 points in the first 2 weeks. And that kind of speaks volumes about the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? They were able to post a 9 on D, but still their rating per PFF was terrible. That means they're not winning. That means Jacksonville has more problems than are evident, to say the least. So, yeah, I just think the lack of fluidity on the Chiefs side is something to take note of. And the Bears, I didn't watch much of this game at all, probably a total of 15 plays. So I definitely need to go back and rewatch. This team does not look good. And there's a recurring theme for me. You look at the top 5 QBs on pocket time, quarterbacks holding on to the ball in the pocket the longest. It's the worst quarterbacks in the league. It's rookies, it's Deshaun Watson, and it's Jordan Love. It's what's his name? Justin Fields. He's so forgettable at this point. I mean, how about these Bears fans who thought they had something going in the right direction and they got ran into a brick wall. I still think, and despite how bad and terrible the Bears have been, and I agree with you, Jimmy, it does look like a bounce back spot for the Chiefs offense. But I just can't get there with the Chiefs. I mean, this to me is just too many points. It's Bears or nothing.
-7 first quarter. First half, excuse me. -7 first half. And it's team total at 16.5. And, this feels like one of those games that that if it doesn't, go the way you expect, you're just absolutely filled with rage. But if you listen to Mahomes talking right now, if you listen to this Chiefs offense, they're so frustrated. They're angry. And, when Dennis says, I bet Chicago plus 13 under 48, I love high unders with the Chiefs. I always have. I love unders with the Chiefs when they play against a weak opponent. But something is different here, where this is not a team that feels good about their play. They're angry, and they want to get right. I do not want them full game. I know they just want to be healthy. If they take a big lead, it'll be a perfect opportunity for a live under. I'll be looking at the under at halftime, or maybe even a little bit before that. But Ron Crawford says that we are out of sync. I don't like that. But I made the mistake with the Bills. No, I still got some money. I took the first half team total over, but I just see so many similarities. An angry team at home against a lightweight opponent where they just want to get right, feel good about themselves. And they would like to do that over the first 30 minutes. So Sky Dragon says maybe Kansas City just isn't good this year, and that's why they are frustrated and playing bad. Yeah, maybe. But the Bears secondary is horrific now with Brisker back, and who knows about Eddie Jackson if he can even make it through a full game. But Kyler Gordon now, I just think it's a get right spot. That's all. Okay. And Al Service is a lightweight who is reeling, under tremendous pressure. This is Justin Fields ran 4 times for 3 yards. Everything seems out of whack for the Bears right now. And when do you want a big favorite? There's only one. It's when they're angry. Other than that, you never want them. You never, ever want them. They have to be angry. And this is an angry group, a frustrated group. So maybe Dennis is right. Maybe they're just not very good. The Super Bowl champs, maybe they're not very good. Now they don't have Bieniemy, and they need to prove something. I think they proved something right here. I'm going to bet this tonight. I'm going to bet the -7. I'm going to bet the team total over. I've got a line chop because I'm not going to want this plus money, ridiculous plus money on the. Oh, but that was a 31.5. I'll have to line chop on the first half over. I've said enough. I'm going to be on the Chiefs first half and the first half team total over for the Chiefs. I bet you they score on their first drive, a touchdown on their first drive as well. Chiefs first half -7. And team total over. This just fits my MO here, but nothing fit. Oh, the MO that I wanted last week blew up my face. So is there anything you want to touch on before we move on, my man?
No, we can move on.
All right, let's do it again. Follow both of us on Twitter to see our official action. And that's 11.
I don't want to add on to that, man. Like at this point, I haven't gotten too deep into these remaining games. I actually won this Raiders-Steelers game coming up. I have a little bit more on, but I still have a lot of work to do. So like you were saying, follow us on Twitter. That I'll be posting a lot of stuff, a lot of information, come game time.
Let's roll on. 4:25 p.m. Eastern, Dallas Cowboys at Arizona Cardinals. We're at State Farm Stadium, Glendale, Arizona. The Cardinals have impressed me. I lost. I didn't fade them in week 1 because I didn't trust the Commanders. But I certainly thought that the Giants were going to bounce back early, and they did not do that. And it cost me money. Let's get into the line history here for Cowboys, Cardinals. See what we have. We're sitting at a 13 at Pinnacle. This is where this opened. There has been 6 cents of movement to the 13. But if you look around at the board, there's 12s. So it's Pinnacle that's pushing this 13. Doesn't seem like the other books. Bet Chris at 12.5. We get over to the total here for this one. We have it sitting at 44. This opened up at 44. It dropped down to 43 and it's back up to 44. I kind of like the under in this one, but certainly not with a ton of confidence and just more of a lean at this point. We have at this point, 67% of the tickets and 99% of the cash on the under. The line's not moved initially, but now it's bounced back. So that's not a real confidence builder. 84% of the tickets, 81% cash on these Cowboys. This is not where I want a big favorite, right? I mean, I want a big favorite that needs to prove something. And the Cowboys, they look like the best team in the NFL right now. They don't need to prove anything to anybody. Coming off an easy 30-10 win at home over the Jets. Dak, 31-38 for 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. CeeDee Lamb, a career high 11 receptions for 143 yards. You want your stars to be happy. He's happy. They're all happy. Tony Pollard ran 25 times for 72 yards, caught 7 passes for 37 yards. 10 players caught passes. They outgained these Jets 382 to 215. They ran 83 plays compared to 46 from the visitors. They completely dominated the time of possession. They held onto the ball for 42 minutes and 15 seconds compared to just 17:45 on the Jets. They went 9 of 18 on third down. They struggled in the red zone though, finishing 2 of 6. I think that's something that we can expect from the Cowboys. Because of some of his weaknesses. The defense shut down Zach Wilson, picking him off 3 times, sacked him 3 times. They sacked Danny Dimes 7 times in week 1, held the Jets to 215 yards, 1 of 10 on third down, 0 of 1 in the red zone. Micah Parsons, 4 tackles, 3 of them for a loss, 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. And they pick up Brandon Aubrey, the soccer player, 5 of 5 on field goals, hit the long of 55, just gaining more and more confidence. There are injuries on the offensive line. So Zach Martin was cleared to play against the Jets, but he did not because of that ankle injury. So, do they really even need to play him here? He's been at all the practices, sort of in a limited capacity. And we don't know what's up with Tyler Smith's hamstring strain. So it was not updated. So they gave us a bunch of updates, but they didn't update Tyler Smith. And that's a concern. Chuma Edoga injured his elbow in the game. So what happened was there was an undrafted rookie, TJ Bass, in there. It didn't matter because Jets, are just trash. Well, it's hard to say. I hate saying that because they have some really nice pieces. Arizona couldn't hold on to a 20-0 halftime lead and lost their 6th straight home game, 31-28 to the Giants. Biggest lead they've blown since 2011. Jonathan Gannon still has to be pleased from what he's seen. It has to be. The offense got 24 first downs, put up 379 yards under Joshua Dobbs. I mean, that's the best game of his career. He almost won his first game as a starter, 0-4 as a starter, but he looked so much better than what we saw in those 2 games for Tennessee. He finished 21-31 for 228 yards and a touchdown. He also ran 3 times for 43 yards and a touchdown. A 2023 third-round pick out of Stanford, Michael Wilson, led receivers with 3 catches for 57 yards. Zach Ertz looked good, 6 catches for 56 yards. Marquise Brown, 6 for 56 and a touchdown. James Conner looks rejuvenated. He ran strong, 23 carries for 106 yards and a touchdown. Now, the Cowboys defense is obviously going to provide a much more difficult challenge. The defense couldn't get stops when it mattered most. They allowed the Giants to put up 439 total yards, go 7-12 on third down, 4 or 5 in the red zone. They finished with 3 sacks and 5 quarterback hits. Jalen Thompson had an interception. Budda Baker with the hamstring injury being inactive, I mean, that hurts. I mean, this is a guy who doesn't miss games generally, and he hurt his hamstring Friday in practice, so he's on IR. So Budda Baker now going to miss at least 4 games, so he won't be back. At the earliest would be October 22nd in Seattle. And then Andre Sacheret was promoted from the practice squad once Baker got hurt. So Sacheret has a larger role on defense, and that's not going to go well. The Cardinals also have the option to move Thompson back to a full-time safety role, use veteran cornerback Antonio Hamilton more. Cardinals are also really short on the defensive line. LJ Collier on IR. Gannon says that they're evaluating Watkins' bicep injury, but Carlos Watkins, it hurts not having him in. Fotu also is not in the lineup. So this Cardinals team is looked great off the hop. It's going to get weaker and weaker, I believe, each week, and they'll probably get smashed here. And the Cowboys don't need to prove anything to anybody. I don't see why this game wouldn't be a low-scoring first half, at least, before maybe the Cowboys take their foot off the gas. But when they take their foot off the gas, they still just run the ball and kill the clock. So, I see now Sky Dragon says he bet Arizona and the under. So everyone decided in preseason Arizona is the worst team in the league. Probably true, but they haven't been undervalued. But they've been undervalued in the markets. 2-0 against the spread, both wire-to-wire covers. No, I don't dislike that at all. but I do think I like the under best. I do think I like the under best, and I think that would be. Is it the public coming in back on the over here? 67 and 99. Take it away, Troy. Cowboys, Cardinals, State Farm.
I kind of agree with you on the under. I mean, it does smell like too many points, figuring the Cowboys kind of potentially let off the gas. Are the Cardinals tanking? I'm kind of confused with where the Cardinals are at as a team and as an organization, as they look like they were trying to win that game versus the Giants. And Dobbs has proven his ability to not turn over the ball and take care of the ball. I think he only has one turnover on the season. With two teams that don't turn the ball over, I don't think the Cowboys have turned the ball over once all season. I think that it also leads me to an under. I think less turnovers lead to less points, as you don't get that quick field position, right? I don't have much on this game. I'm kind of starting to lean towards the under after talking it out with you, Jimmy. But yeah, I think I'm going to save my breath and save everyone in the chat at their time.
I think I move on this under. I think it just makes a ton of sense here to me.
What was the line move on this total at FanDuel? It's not moving at all.
This dropped. So it opened up at 44 on Monday night at 7:30 p.m. It took 5 cents of movement within 34 minutes. Then it came back. Then it dropped back. Then it dropped to 43. Excuse me. Jesus. So at 1:30 in the morning, then after about 8 hours, it dropped to 43. Then it started getting hit to the over. So then it got up, but as soon as it got back up to 44, it dropped back to 43 again. And then it came back to 44 today at 4:04 p.m. So, I think that I'd like to have some more time with the market, but I think I bet the under.
And like you said, maybe lean towards the first half under, thinking eventually the bottom falls out. Dobbs tries to do too much to get his team back into a game. He's down, touchdown, 2 scores. And then the points start going up on the board late. I could see that. I think that makes sense. First half under. As
much as that is that you would prefer to have the first half because in case of the hijinks of maybe not trying second half, the live betting the under in the Jets Cowboys game was excellent. You got the under 42.5, got the under 46.5. So the Cowboys slow it down too. So I'm not. I don't want to double up, but maybe that's it. Maybe it's a double up spot. I don't know. I'm going to move on the under tonight. I like that 44. I'm not sure how long it's going to be there. I'm going to move on the under tonight. I didn't realize that was going to be a move, but it is going to be a move. Let's move on to the Sunday Nighter. We will have our live stream on the Sunday Nighter. Last night, we had our record broken for the longest odds on a winner. Our guy Clint McLean started the Die Hard MMA podcast, hit a 30-1 for the next score to be a defensive touchdown for the Steelers, and TJ Watt delivered it immediately. 30-1 score, which trumped the 19-1 the week before of the Big Ragoo's 19-1. That was Jets money line and the over 36.5 in Jets Bills 19-1. So we've had some bombs. I'm 8-2 right now in live bets in NFL to start the year. So we're having a lot of fun on these streams, and we'll be live for Steelers Raiders at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, the home opener for the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go over to the line history here for our Sunday Nighter. Just 2 games after this left on the board, both on Monday. This opened up with Pittsburgh -1, and Pittsburgh is now +2.5. We've had Vegas go from dog to favorite, all from since 9:23 a.m. this morning when this line came out at Pinnacle. That's a big move. To give it another look, let's see what it is on the money line. And maybe that'll give us a better sense of this move. Here we go. Moving to the money line. Let's get this up and at them. And here it is. So it's just taking a second here. Okay, here we go. From the money line perspective, we have Pinnacle hanging Las Vegas at -139, and they open at -104. So that's a big move. That's a 35-cent move to the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's take a look at the total here in this one. We are sitting at a 43. A lot of talk about prime time unders. This opened up at 44 and has dropped 1 point to 43. Here we go. let's take a look at the cash flow before we do that. For this one, we have on the money line 42% of the tickets and 15% of the cash on the Raiders. That's surprising. Now, there's only 6,318 tickets in, but that's a surprise that the market will be moving that fast towards the Raiders when the bigger bets have come in on the Steelers. 61% of the tickets are on the under. We don't know cash flow yet. 45% of the tickets, 49% cash on the spread on the Raiders. So this is pretty interesting. Birdie says Steelers have faced two of the top three defenses. They get a defense that is not top three. Game will slow down here. Analytics off the last two Pittsburgh games is driving this line movement. Pittsburgh for me, and they root them. Spenny Penny Bomb says Raiders 8-2 against spread last 10 versus the Steelers. Harold Williams says leaning towards the Raiders. And Al Cervix says Pickett looks weak. Spenny Penny Bomb says he should have got the Raiders at -1.5. Steelers coming off that ugly 26-22 home victory over the Browns thanks to 2 defensive touchdowns. They've now beaten the Browns 20 straight times at home. Steelers become the second team since 1991 to win a game. This is wild. Second team since 1991 to win a game. They were trailing in the fourth quarter despite having negative yardage in the quarter. We're just 2 games into the season, but Kenny Pickett has struggled mightily in both. He finished 15-30 for 222 yards, touchdown, a pick. Steelers only had 9 first downs in the entire game, and they didn't run one play in the red zone. Wild. George Pickens was excellent. He got 4 passes for 127 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Warren added 66 yards on 4 catches while rushing 6 times for 20 yards. Najee Harris did very little on the ground, finished with 10 carries for 43 yards. As a team, the Steelers ran 21 times for just 55 yards. But the defense of the Steelers looked very strong. Highsmith returned a pick, 30 yards for a score. He created the game-winning touchdown when he forced Deshaun Watson to fumble in the fourth quarter. That was scooped by TJ Watt. Steelers finished with 6 sacks and 11 quarterback hits. Gunnar Olszewski went into concussion protocol. The kick returner in the first half did not return. Minka Fitzpatrick left in the third quarter with a chest injury. That sent him to the hospital. So he was there for precautionary scans. It's just a chest contusion. The scans were negative, and there's optimism that Fitzpatrick will be fine moving forward. Inside linebacker Landon Roberts left the game in the third quarter with a neck injury. So if Roberts is not around, then Cole Holcomb and Quan Alexander will be the inside linebackers, and Mark Robinson will be available off the bench. They're already without defensive tackle Cam Hayward, who was placed on injured reserve due to a groin injury. Raiders coming off an ugly 38-10 loss at Buffalo, completely dominating the loss, outgained 450 to 240. Jimmy G was 16 of 24 for 185 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Last year's NFL rushing leader, Josh Jacobs, was held to -2 yards on 9 carries. He did catch 5 passes for 51 yards. Devontae Adams caught 6 for 84. Jacoby Myers remains in concussion protocol, so he did not play after he led the team in week 1 with 9 catches, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns in that win in Denver. There's been no update on his status. The Raiders only had the ball for 19 minutes and 56 seconds of the game. They couldn't get stops. They couldn't get the Bills off the field. 9 total drives by the Bills, 7 in the red zone, 5 of them in the end zone. Max Crosby held to no sacks, no quarterback hits. As a team, the Raiders only had 2 of each and just 4 tackles for a loss. And who knows what the hell's going on with Chandler Jones, but don't expect him to be in a Raiders uniform anytime soon. Take it away for us here, Troy, our Sunday nighter, Steelers Raiders.
You covered a lot of what I wanted to cover. I mean, the Steelers offense right now, PFF got them at 32nd, and that's not really a surprise, figuring that they played the 49ers and the Browns in weeks 1 and 2. Pickett has been lucky enough to make some big plays, like they won the 70-yard pass he did him and Pickett connected on, and he's struggling mightily, but I don't think he's all that much to blame when you look at how terrible this offensive line is. Pass block rated 32nd, run block rated 30th. Their wide receivers are ranked 29th, which came as a little bit of a surprise to me. But Najee Smith is not him. He's not an RB1 by any means. Jalen Warren, the word is still out. We got to see more of him. I mean, I want to see the Steelers offense play against somebody that's not one of the top 3 defenses in the NFL at this point. So it's really hard to make an assessment on that offense at this point. So the word is out on that. But on the defensive side of things, they can't stop the run, allowing the most yards per carry in the league. And that's definitely a concern. But the Raiders, can they run the ball? Does Josh Jacobs even want to run the ball for the Raiders anymore? They're 30th at the running back position. But this offensive line, I talked about them in weeks 1 and 2. This is just a cohesive unit. They just continue to get the job done. Right now, they're ranked as the number 1 offensive line in the pass blocking. As it relates to pass blocking. But yeah, I just don't see this team being able to run the ball. Josh Jacobs looks uninspired. Another tough game. And after hearing this breakdown, I was kind of leaning the Raiders, but now I'm kind of backing off my position a little bit because I want to see what the Steelers can do on the offensive side of things, not going up against somebody named the Chargers. Or, excuse me. If they go against the Chargers, their offense is going to look great. Someone not named the Browns, the Eagles, the top defenses, the Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers, not the best defense in the league. We got to see what this offense can do. So I'm going to stay off this spot.
Why don't we bet the under immediately? What? I mean, the Steelers have shown us nothing offensively, and have the Raiders? Is Jimmy G going to put up points? I mean, this just seems like, I mean, that 26-22 score was ludicrous. Now, I bet the under live immediately after that first touchdown by Highsmith, under 46.5. That was a loser. I bet it again at 44.5. Of course, that was a loser with the 70-yard forward run and then the scoop and score by TJ. But I also had the under 50.5. I had the under 51.5 and the Steelers live. So, still went 3-2 in the game and made money. Why don't we bet the under immediately?
I think I would be betting the under, but I want to see more of this market develop on the under. Let me take a peek at some of those metrics again. See what.
Please do. Ron Crawford says Raiders in the 13-2 spreadsheet spot. There's a guy with Claim James in the house. And then we have Sky Dragon says, did you guys watch Pickett? He stinks. Jimmy G isn't any good either. Under. So, the market move towards the Raiders, I'll sit back and respect. I mean, I don't need a dog on the side. I just want the under. Do anything?
The side. I mean, for this market move, I mean, this would, based on what the database has to say, this line movement suggests that the Raiders is the right play. And we talked about a similar spot like this, a dog becoming a favorite in the Vikings Chargers game, and that kind of had me on the Chargers. And that's kind of why I was leaning towards the Raiders. But after talking this out, the unknowns with the Steelers on offense, I think the under is moving up my radar. And, I like the primetime unders. A lot of good metrics as it relates to that. So let's move on the under. I'm with you, Jimmy.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it tonight.
You can put me down for a Raiders-Steelers under.
All right. And then when you tweet it out with the line, that will then make it official.
Gotcha.
Troy going to join me on the under. All right, let's move on to Monday night. We have a Monday night double header. Our Monday nights here at Pub Sports Radio are pretty wild. And, watching Clint hit that 30-1 made it even more wild. And we got a much better two-game slate, in my estimation, for us. This Monday, September 25th, let's start 7:15 p.m. Eastern. Philadelphia Eagles 2-0, 1-0 on the road at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2-0, 1-0 at home at Raymond James Stadium, Tampa, Florida, 83 Fahrenheit, scattered thunderstorms, 6 miles per hour. Let's get right into the line history here. I got money line up, so let's move over to the spread here. And we have Tampa Bay sitting as 5.5-point dogs. This opened up at 6.5. So we have a 1-point move towards the Buccaneers. The Eagles have not looked good, but sitting at 2-0. This total is sitting at 46. This opened up at 45. It's gone up a point to 46. Up a point. That surprises me as well. Take a look at the cash flow then for this one. Eagles, Buccaneers. We have the spread here, 41% of the tickets and 65% of the cash on the Buccaneers, market moving in that direction. Then you have 40% of the tickets and 89% of the cash on the under. So why in the world would this be moving up? Why would it be going from 45 to 46? And since it's moved to 46, there's been a move to the under, but that didn't happen until this morning. Last night, there was even a 3-cent move to the over at 46. So that's interesting. Jarek White looking at Tampa Bay money line. Harold Williams looking at Eagles -5. And Birdie says Bucks from me here, and it has been bet. He said I would also bang the table for the Bucks money line. Eagles come in 2-0. They come in off a 34-28 victory at home over the Vikings, where they benefited greatly off of 4 Viking fumbles. They also received awful news. Starting quarterback Avonte Maddox will undergo surgery for a torn pectoral suffered in the win on Thursday. Maddox will be out indefinitely and for likely the rest of the year. So with Maddox out, Eagles turn to undrafted free agent Mario Goodrich. So they're already without starting safety Reed Blankenship with the rib injury, starting quarterback James Bradbury with the concussion. When Sirianni was asked about Bradbury, he said that everyone has a chance to play this week against Tampa. So it's possible that Bradbury's back in business. Against the Vikes, Jalen Hurts was 18 of 23 for 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He also ran 12 times for 35 yards and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Smith was excellent. He caught 4 passes for 131 yards and a touchdown. Replacing Kenneth Gainwell due to injury, DeAndre Swift was a monster. 28 carries for 175 yards, caught 3 passes for 6 yards. Running game put up 259 total yards, allowed the Eagles to dominate time of possession, 39-28 to 20-32. They finished with 430 yards of offense, went 6 of 14 on third down, 3 of 4 in the red zone. The defense put pressure on Cousins, finishing with 2 sacks and 10 quarterback hits, but the Vikings still put up big passing numbers, 346 yards through the air. Minnesota was 7 for 11 on third or fourth down and went 3 of 3 in the red zone. That's not the Eagles defense that I remember. The Buccaneers are full of confidence and face a tough test here. They come in off an easy 27-17 win at home over the Bears to move to 2-0 in the year, put up 437 yards of offense, were 8 of 15 on third down. There were main issues in the red zone. They were just 1 of 4 down there. The Bears secondary is missing key pieces. Mayfield took advantage. 26 of 34 for 317 yards and a touchdown. He has yet to turn the ball over through 2 games. Shocking. Mike Evans, 6 catches for 171 yards and a touchdown. Chris Godwin caught 5 for 58. Rashad White ran 17 times for 73 yards and a touchdown and caught 5 for 30. The defense swarmed Justin Fields. 6 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, held him to 3 yards rushing on 4 carries. Now, they played without Carlton Davis with the toe injury and Kalijah Cansey with the calf injury. So Davis is a very important cornerback and, the most experienced quarterback on the roster. He would be very useful against the Eagles, and he's dealing with a toe injury that doesn't seem to be healing. Take it away, Troy, our first of our doubleheader on Monday, Eagles, Buccaneers.
So this is a spot where I'm leaning exactly where Birdie is sitting. I wouldn't mind a money line play based on this market move. I mean, I've talked about this a lot on this channel is, these teams that open between 6 and 7 and close below 6, very strong. 5-2 ATS, 5-2 on the money line. That has me looking at the Bucs. I mean, I knew this spot as soon as I pulled up the market environment, I knew I was going to be looking towards the Bucs. And after watching the Eagles and how they performed, bunch of question marks on the Eagles defense. I think there's a lot we have to sort out from an injury report. But Jalen Hurts is very hesitant in the pocket. It's almost like he trusts his offensive line too much. Last week, he held the ball for three seconds. Average drop back. He held the ball for 3 seconds. That shows a little bit too much trust or very hesitant and not quite sure what he's seeing. And maybe that's props to Brian Flores or to the defensive coordinator for the Vikings for throwing all those blitz packages at him. He was able to burn it a few times, but overall, he just looked very, very hesitant. And Jalen Hurts was pressured at a 26% rate, which is 4th in the NFL. And that, again, reflects his decision-making in the pocket, his indecision in the pocket more than anything. This, to me, is something I'm going to sit on. I'm going to study a little bit more, but I plan to be on the Bucs. And now that it's below 6, I think I have a time to wait here. I like where the number's at under 6. I'll take it on the money line, and I'll take it on the spread as well. Just trying to let the injury report come out, and maybe that makes it official.
Brady says the Eagles' defense is trash. I mean, if Bradbury, because Bradbury, of course, on the Vikes. If Bradbury is back, and I mean, isn't this a much better defense if Blankenship and Bradbury are out there? Don't they go right back to aren't they capable of being a dominant defense even without Maddox?
Yeah, I think so. I do. But still, there's too many points. The line is not right based on where these two teams currently sit. Even at full health, I want to see it from the Eagles first, specifically. Unfortunately, I love this kid, Jalen Hurts. I thought he was awesome last year. His story, just everything about him, I loved it. But he's not the same this year.
I'm interested in the Bucs. I didn't realize I was. I'm interested in the Bucs. Wow. Okay. I'm going to have to see whether I move on them tonight. Going to have some nice dogs on my card. All right, let's move on to the final game of tonight's show. The final game of the doubleheader, Monday night doubleheader. Los Angeles Rams 1-1, 1-0 on the road at Cincinnati. Bengals 0-2, 0-1 at home. We're at Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. 71 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 5 miles per hour. I love this stadium, Paycor, right across the river from Lexington County. Let's take a look at the line history here for this one. We will start with the spread. This is sitting with Cincinnati as 1.5 point favorites, which is what they opened at this morning at 9:24 a.m. 1.5 point favorites. From a total side of things, we are sitting at 43 juice to the over. This opened up right there. There has been 9 cents of movement towards the over since it opened up. All right, so and Skydragon, I was curious to see what Skydragon thought about the Eagles spot because I know he's an Eagles backer, and he says I was waiting. I looked to see if there was a comment from you, but he says all the Eagles have done is win and cover, yet you all concerned for no reason. Well, they pushed that last one, but I could understand you liking a spot where your team has not played well and is sitting 2-0. I get it. Let's talk about this one, though. Let's go over to the cash flow for our Monday nighter. We have 33% of the tickets and 85% of the cash on the under. And then we have 73% of the tickets and 77% cash on the Rams. There is Rod Zawacki says, Eagles 10 straight road wins as favorites. So here we go. Rams have looked much better than anyone expected to start the year. They come in off a 30-23 loss to the 49ers at SoFi. Stafford once again is getting the absolute most out of this offense. They outgained the Niners 386 to 365. 7 more first downs than the Niners. We're 7 of 14 on third down. He finished 34 for 55. 307 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Puka Nacua, another monster game. His 5th-round pick out of BYU. 15 catches for 147 yards. Broke the NFL's single-game record for receptions by a rookie. Set a new overall league mark with 25 catches in his first 2 games of his career. He has 300 – well, the Rams – racked up 386 total yards. Puka Nacua's got to be at 275, I want to say. I forget exactly what he got in that first game. Tutu Atwell had another big game, caught 7 passes for 77 yards. Cam Akers was healthy and active, and we expect that he played his last game as a Ram. In his place, Kyron Williams looked good, ran 14 times for 52 yards, touchdown, caught 6 passes, 48 yards, and a touchdown. The 49ers paid attention to Aaron Donald, and it paid off. He had 1 quarterback hit and no tackles. Byron Young had the team's lone sack and the only 2 hits on Purdy. Joseph Noteboom injured his shoulder in the second half, and he's been wearing a brace on his shoulder. It sounds like he's going to be able to play through it. Skydragon says he bet Cincinnati in the under if Burrow doesn't play. Injured quarterback team rallies theory, and if he does play, well, this line shoots back up. I agree, and I would like him to not play, and I'd like to get a better line on the Bengals, and I would bet that. And if that happens, I agree with that missing quarterback theory, and I would move on more than a unit on the Bengals at a plus line at home. But let's talk about it. Just like last season, Bengals have opened up 0-2. Unlike last season, Burrow has aggravated a calf injury that looks to be lingering. Bengals coming off a 27-24 home loss to the Ravens. They were outgained 415 to 282. They were just 2 of 4 in the red zone, and one was a game-changing pick. Burrow 27-41 for 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. T. Higgins led receivers with 8 catches for 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyler Boyd caught 6 for 52, and Jamar Chase caught 5 passes for 36 yards, just 36 yards. Mixon ran 13 times for 59 yards, caught 4 for 36. And they went 10 of 15 on third down and 1 for 1 on fourth down. So it wasn't quite as bad as some people think it was. Defensively, they could get no pressure on Lamar. 0 sacks, 1 quarterback hit. They allowed the Ravens to go 9 of 14 on third down. Safety Nick Scott is in concussion protocol. So when Joe Burrow suffered the calf injury in training camp, is Jamar Chase said, don't come back till week 5. Said, be 100% ready. And, Burrow signed a big contract and was ready in week 1. It did not look good. He's 0 for 12 on throws of 15 or more air yards this season. So he's only had, in his career, 42 career starts, he's only had 1 game without a completion of 15 or more air yards. So he's done it in 2 straight now. Last 2 years, he led the NFL with 27 passing touchdowns of 15 or more air yards. And now the question is, they're 0-2, but do they allow him to rest up? And it's Jake Browning. Now, there's quarterbacks out there that they can get, but in the system right now, it's Jake Browning, who has 1 career NFL pass, and Will Grier, from West Virginia. I imagine to be, Jake Browning, and I think we get a great number, and I don't know what the hell's going to happen. And it's hard to find real angles or game script or scorecast when we don't know who will be at quarterback. Take it away, Troy. Is there anything that interests you at this point, 6 days before kickoff?
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do with this game at this point, but the Bengals have been the most surprising development of the season to me. I mean, a lot of it might have to do with Joe Burrow and his injury, but how about the rest of the team? The offensive line was supposed to be much better than last year, but they're still average 25th between pass block and run block. Obviously, Joe Burrow's struggling because of it, but how about the wide receiver group? The lowest wide receiver grade in the NFL through 2 weeks, which makes no fucking sense at all with the talent that they have over there. I mean, we all know who's lining up at X and Z for those guys. So on defense, they've been piss poor. The run defense, surprisingly to me, is graded out as 16th in the NFL. Pass rush 29th, and they're only pressuring quarterbacks on 12% of their dropbacks, which went significantly down this week. And the Rams, I mean, this is on the opposite end, another big surprise. I mean, their offense is fantastic, but their defense is still rating in at 32nd overall, which is pretty damn surprising to me given what they've been able to do. So maybe it's just a matter of time before the bottom falls out on that Rams defense. I think that is going to turn out to be true. And I don't know how to handle this Bengals team with the question marks around Joe Burrow. So this line moved too much. It'd be Bengals or nothing.
Well, I, like others, hope that Burrow does not play. Browning comes in, this becomes a home dog, and the team rallies around him. And that's my plan. So I'm going to sit and wait. Birdie says, normally I say bet the team that loses their quarterback, but I think I'm hesitant here, and no one says bet this angle more than me. Yeah, but I get why you're hesitant. I think this turns into the perfect gambling situation if that happens, and I'm going to open up if it does. I'm going to hammer it, and we'll be live for it with a bottle of Kraken, screaming and yelling. So that's the situation. And
I kind of agree with Birdie from that standpoint. This situation does kind of hold me back a little bit, but the Rams, they're going to come back down to earth on the defensive side of things. They just can't maintain this defensive output with how they're performing. Somewhat lucky.
This game could be a lot of fun. The Kraken will help. Smoke and Mirrors said, did someone say Kraken? You're damn right we did, Smoke. That is our show for today. Thank you guys so much. Let's review all action here. We're coming off a simply horrific week 2. And, sometimes it's okay to get, kicked in the teeth. And that's what happens. That's what happened. And sometimes it's okay. A little wake-up call. Understand the difficulty of what we're trying to do. Something we were extremely successful with last year. So I'm okay with it. All right, let's review all action here. I'm very interested in the 49ers first half team total over. But that's about it for the Thursday nighter at this point. And I don't think I move on it tonight. I want to sit with this a little longer. Then the under 39.5 in Tennessee, Cleveland, I will bet this evening. For the Falcons spot, I lean to the Falcons plus 3.5, and Troy's leaning to the Lions team total over. I'm not entirely sure if we move on either of them yet. That doesn't seem like something I would need to move on right now. With the Saints Packers, I lean to the under and I lean to the Saints. I'm certainly not moving on it this evening. Then we have the spreadsheet play of the day on Denver plus 6.5. I wish, my balls dangled in toilet water and I could back Denver plus 6.5. I can't right now, but I certainly lean in that direction, but I can't. Then the Chargers, I want to bet tonight. I think Troy on the same wavelength there with that one. And please follow Troy Torrence 11 on Twitter. He'll put all his action out there. Then Troy's on the Pats -2.5 and -115. That's his first official bet on the card. I like it. I'm going to spend more time on it. I'm still a little hesitant. Commanders +6.5. Ron Crawford asked me if I'm going to track that weekly play today. Sure, absolutely, buddy, absolutely. So we caught the Steelers in week 2. Who did we have in week 1? If you could, we'll talk on Twitter. Commanders +6.5. I think I move on tonight. I have some interest in the Texans. I don't know if I can get there. The Colts, I move tonight. I see that Dennis Garcia is very high on the under. I'm going to spend more time studying that. The Panthers, I find appealing. Again, I'm not sure if I move on it tonight, but I might want to sit with that longer. Chiefs first half -7 and the team total over. I'm going to move on that tonight. That's one of those big favorite spots that can blow up in your face, but it's everything that I saw the Bills go through. I think they're going to go through. The under in the Cowboys Cardinals, I will move on that tonight. The under in the Steelers Raiders, I will move on that tonight. Troy also liking the under in that spot. Then the Bucks interest me and interest Troy. I may get there this evening. I'm not entirely sure. Rams Bengals, you guys know my game script. I want Joe Burrow to be out. I want the line to move towards the Rams in a big way, and I want to bet the Bengals. That's my spot here. Thank you guys, everybody in the chat. Slatsy, Al Cervix, Sky Dragon, Cheshire Cat, Saturated, Birdie, Ron Crawford. So many great notes from the chat. So many. Rod Zawacki joining us as well was great. Cheshire Rolling, Smoke and Mirrors. Thank you for joining us. Sharpie all over this show, and he's had such a spectacular start to the season. Christopher Comentini, great group. Real Deal Prime. Thank you guys for all the effort and energy you put into the show. Al Cervic rolling with us. Reclaim James. All you guys, we truly have nothing without your support, and it means a ton to us. James S. was rolling. Trans Canada. Vincent Hawkins. Thank you all. Thank you guys. It means a ton. Christopher Comentini. Thank you. Troy, my man, I'm very, very interested to see how we handle this first bit of adversity. It's come a little earlier than we wanted, but it came with a thud. And I'm really interested to see how we handle this. Big O, thank you, my man. Troy, my man, any last words for the cappers in the chat?
Hey, this show is a marathon, but the NFL is a fucking sprint. It's time to forget about what happened in week 2 and let's hammer week 3.
I agree. Let's hammer it. I love capping with you. There's certain people that I've capped with before where I'm like, we spend 3 hours on a show and I have this like I feel guilty. I feel like, oh God, but you never make me feel that way. You want to put in the work, and I thank you for that, Troy, because these are really long shows. So thank you for being so cool with how long they are and how much work that goes into it. I love the way you cap. We cap differently, and that's why I think we're going to succeed together. But we need to succeed right here in week 3 badly. So let's go out there and get that cash. Overtime, Matthew Green, Big O, Damon Forbes. Thank you, guys. Now let's go out and get that fucking money. Let's shade these motherfucker bookmakers. Let's get that cash. Thank you to our producer, Vic. Jose is at the Orioles game right now. He's going to drive directly back to San Antonio so he can produce our show tomorrow morning. But thank you, Vic, for doing a great job producing things. And let's go out now and get that fucking money. Thank you for watching.